I sail from a cove where the warm trade winds blow and the silver blue dolphins glide, where the rum's always strong and the nights run long and the tide is a heave at your side, when the moon's riding high and the lanterns are low and the waves start to shimmer bright. Come aboard, cast away, let the sea have its say on another Caribbean night. Caribbean nights, like Caribbean days, more often than not, they're wilder than not, in the boldest of ways. Caribbean nights, see Caribbean stars. Oh, with the wind, all giving, out there past the keep a whispering law of the captains who never came home, and the gulls overhead cry of treasure and dread, where the east side of kingdom alone. But the breeze tastes the spice and the gum feels right when your heart's set on freedom's bite. Raise a toast, stake your claim, let the world know your name on another Caribbean.
Welcome, everybody. I did not know that the music was having an echo. Am I echoing? Wolf, do you hear me echo? awesome.
Not right now, no.
Maybe I am. Let's see. Technical difficulties. We always have technical difficulties.
Kick this damn thing.
Let's try that. Does that have an echo now?
Nope.
Awesome. I think that's because I had the NVIDIA high definition on.
Cool. We should probably figure out which screen I'm staring at here, because I've got the chat on this one, and I've got us on this one, and I'm looking at this one and not hearing my voice come out of this one, even though this one's muted.
So I have us here in the center. I have chat on this side, and I have the Wheel of Mortality on this side.
Oh, there you go. Well, I just linked the pages together so they're on this side. Cool.
There you
I'll
go.
look less
Well,
like.
Welcome in, everybody. As you know, today is a massive 2-hour-long episode, though Wolf probably won't stay around for 2 hours.
Are you kidding? I can probably talk for 4.
Well, probably.
You've been drinking with me. You know how I go.
And we're talking about things that are very much right up your alley of things to talk about, because
More
I'm a bad archaeologist.
You're not a bad archaeologist.
I knew nothing of Göbekli Tepe until you started talking about it.
I could tell you about an archaeological site that I was working on yesterday, and you're not a bad archaeologist because you didn't know anything about it.
Well,
we can't be expected to know about every single archaeological site on the planet. That's just dumb.
There's
sites that I don't know about.
You don't know about Vada?
Mm-hmm.
The archaeological site that I did for my field school for college.
And that was a field school. So it was marketed to students and out to the world of the public. So you would think that I would know about it. But again, it depends on where you're looking and the media that you're, and the information that's coming through to you. I almost did a field school in Menorca.
Oh.
Which people know about as a city, but they don't necessarily know there's a sunken necropolis there.
This is true.
Different field school that I almost went and did was a rock shelter site in Argentina. I don't even remember its name. And I know about it. So it's just one of those. We can't be expected to know everything.
We can't. But what we can be expected to do is we are a D&D TTRPG roleplay archaeology everything nerdcast. We are Rogue Bard Advice. And tonight we have on with us again Archaewolf, debunker of pseudoscience, interstellar battle cruiser captain, and my good friend. And if you want to see us live and in person, we have 1 month. 1 month. You know that, right?
No.
Or no, 2 months. 2 months. 2 months.
2 months. Don't tell me this 1 month shenanigans. I have yet to buy my plane ticket. Don't give me this 1 month shenanigans.
If I'm still here in Oklahoma, because for work, I have to be on disaster for 30 days before I can take a rotation.
Yeah.
Bull. If I'm still here in Oklahoma, not on disaster, you could just fly to Oklahoma, and then we could get into my rig and drive the 17 and a half hours to North Carolina.
Or I might leave a day early and just drive the whole way. I don't know. We'll have to see what I do. We'll figure it out.
Will your rig
I'll
make
be
it
there
the whole way?
Will I make it? Yeah.
Will your
I
rig
drive a
make
Toyota.
it?
I drive a Toyota.
But the Toyota has holes in it.
Not anymore. The Toyota had a hole in it for about an hour because when I discovered that, I immediately set to restoring the damn thing in the driveway. Because no, I don't rust hole.
Did you use a license plate?
I used 6 because the hole was such a wrong shape, and there was an angle in there. So I built it up on one side, and then built it up on the other side, and packed the center with rubber foam spray, the Flex Seal.
The Flex Seal.
And smoothed it out, and then sealed it with a very liberal seam painting application of JB Weld.
Nice.
So there is no holes that's getting through, because no, I don't rust. I don't rust. I don't hole. Not in my rigs.
Not in your rigs. Well, I have no rusty holes in my rig either. So the first question we have, not necessarily is for you, sir. The first question we have, I made it light and airy tonight for the first couple of questions. The first question we have is for me, and it's from Puffy Cheeto, our friend Puffy Cheeto. Speaking of which, let me come back to live screen real quick. Puffy Cheeto's surgery went well. There was a little bit of complications, but she's doing well. She's in a bit of pain. So if everybody could give her best wishes and everything, that'd be great. She's back home. Kirk Wagner's first car was an MGB with a rust hole repaired with a stop sign.
Nice.
But
was that in the chat? Because now the chat doesn't seem to be moving.
Yeah, if you go to live chat, if you make it live chat instead of top chat, it's in the chat. I don't know how you do that on your side.
Yeah, I don't know either. Hold on.
But while you're doing that, I'm going to answer Puffy Cheeto's question to me. What has been some of my biggest inspirations for me writing my novel? Well, that's a lot of it's Treasure Island. A lot of it is Black Sails. A lot of it is the fact that I'm writing the history and the story of Captain Flint, which hasn't ever been expanded on. And I'm doing it from his younger ages all the way up until now. Not now being 2026, now being 1754. So, but that's my biggest inspirations for writing my book. That and Anne Rice's interview with a vampire. So,
there you go.
Yeah. I actually have been sitting here editing, and I've edited 7 chapters so far. I wrote originally 14 of my 30, but I wanted to edit 7 of them, or I wanted to edit these 14 before I moved on, so I can get the story written down and kind of finalized.
Good call.
So, before I move forward. But great question, Puffy Cheeto. Thank you for that. That's a great, interesting question about me and about my novel. I can't wait to finish the book either. That was in the chat. Crimson Honda.
Mm-hmm. I can see it. I got the chat up now.
Good.
Yes.
Our question 2 comes from Kirk, and it's the last of the lighthearted questions and the non-hard questions.
The non-lengthy questions.
The non-lengthy questions. And Kirk asks, he's played in a couple D&D games. One of them is a group of guys who've been playing together since 2E. They know the game inside and out, know all the stats, all of the monsters, know all the modules from way back when, etc. The problem is this. They have no awareness of how much they metagame. ... For example, the idea that their brand new first level character may have never heard of, much less seen, a blink dog just does not exist. Or that the private conversations one of them just had with a barmaid isn't instantly group knowledge. So I'm thinking of doing a campaign specifically to work against this. One idea I have is for me, the DM, to make their perception rolls for them. because as it is, they all know who rolled the highest perception, and they go with that. Instead, I make the rules, and I tell each player what they think they are seeing or hearing, and then I let the players argue it out. Any other ideas for thwarting this player's group's metagaming habits? Oh, Kirk.
No idea.
No, because you're not a DM, do you?
No, I've been asked to DM a couple of times, and by a couple I mean like 4, or asked if I want to run a game, and I don't know if I have the confidence to run a game. The reason why the most latest 2 is that Fox and Dustin, I have shared with them the Legends of Evantris Neon Odyssey campaign.
Okay.
Which is essentially 1980s space. D&D, they're doing their Kickstarter and all this stuff on it. Not a paid ad, by the way. Anyway, I shared with them that they have the test game out and that their Kickstarter goes live in a month and stuff. I was like, you guys want to do something like very Treasure Planet, space? Here you go. And I got the test game and like the test manual that they put out for their VIP Patreon people to try it out and see and suggest changes. And they're like, cool, do you want to run the game? And I'm sitting there like, no, I'm letting you know this exists so you guys can run the game. I don't have the confidence in it.
Not a lot of people do. And those people who do take it on end up becoming forever DMs because nobody likes DMing. It's really.
Maybe I can get myself to do it at some point, or do a one shot or something just to try it out, but it hasn't been on my radar lately.
But to answer Kirk's question, I have written some things down for you, Kirk. You're right to want a campaign that punishes metagaming by making it unreliable and costly. I've tabled some practical options and step-by-step ways to run them so that the group learns to treat player knowledge and character knowledge as 2 separate things. You could absolutely do the secret roles private info. Medium player buy-in, medium effort for you as the DM, and its effectiveness is high. Roll for players privately, give each player only what their PC perceives. And that's from dndtoolkit.com. Session 0 and social contract. Set the expectations up front. Agree consequences for repeated metagaming. Though you're already in a game and you want to start a new campaign, that'd be perfect for a session 0 for the new campaign. In-game uncertainty and consequences. Make NPCs, monsters, and clues ambiguous. Wrong assumptions have costs. Mechanical obfuscation, whatever. Tweak stat blocks. Change weaknesses, resistance, or behavior so player knowledge is unreliable.
There you go.
What's that?
There you go.
Yeah, right. And roleplay rewards, XP and inspiration. Reward players for in-character solutions and for explaining how their PC knows something. Why this works. Metagaming often comes from habit and a desire to win. Not all metagaming is harmful. Some keeps the game moving, but it removes mystery or makes private scenes public knowledge. It kills immersion. The goal is to make metagaming a liability rather than an advantage. Like with our game that we haven't started yet.
Can we even use that game as an example because it hasn't started yet?
Well, yes, because me and Matt and Kat have all sort of metagamed about my character.
Sure.
Because my character isn't from the world. Nobody knows who my character actually is, with the exception of those 2.
Huh. Did I freeze? No.
You didn't freeze. I'm trying to give you time to.
I was looking at our chat about it. I imagine you guys have your own quiet chat channel about it, so Fox can't see.
No, well, kinda. No, we don't have our
That's
own private
fine.
chat channel for it, but
It's fine. Yeah.
Matt and I have talked about it offline, phone call. Kat and I have talked about it while playing while playing Moira, I think.
Moria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Moria. Speaking of Moria, and
Yes.
and I don't know where she's at because she's not in the chat right now, but Teeny has Moira
I
or
know.
Moria. Okay.
I know. She expressed quite a lot of upset that she couldn't get through like the very first beginning level. She's on PS5 too, so
Right.
the setup is a little bit different than on PC. Playing wise, not necessarily in the game. But so I made like a care package because the thing that frustrated the hell out of me was the little backpack and
I
shit in the beginning. So I was like, I made her the big backpack and I made her like a good sword and a good hammer and like a beginning set of armor.
I was going to make everybody mithril armor.
And so she still has to play the game, she still has to learn it and stuff, but she's got this little bit of a thing. Because I mean, I understand that. I don't play video games ever. Moria is the only one that I really play. So, it's certainly the one I've played the longest.
For those in the chat who don't know, it's Lord of the Rings Return to Moria.
But
Archaeologist got me into it. I play it occasionally.
yeah, it's a fun game. But yeah, I just helped out a little bit, and that was today. Like I got on there, I logged into her world, and I was like, "Here's this stuff. Here's what you can do. Here's how you make this happen." Bye. Jumped off because I had other shit I had to do.
I saw you jump in. That's when I said we're going live in an hour.
Oh, I was, I was that was just me playing in my own world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've established that the worlds generate 3 different ways when you start an actual campaign, and the sandboxes are just a labyrinth.
I have figured out that I opened a sandbox, and I have figured out that I have skipped a whole area.
Yeah.
In my main.
Yeah. No, the first time I played in a sandbox with my Carver character, I got to the point where I found the Dragon Queen within the first hour of playing. Like I skipped over near everything. And I don't know how I did it. But it was like I have an axe, I have my stuff, and I just like was chopping my way through, thinking that there wasn't necessarily a point to it. It was just you're just exploring and screwing around and building stuff, and there was no mission. No, you still have a mission, but there's none of the training. There's none of the you need to build this, you need to build that. You have to figure it all out on your own. And yeah, it's been you get lost, you get exhausted. I've got 1 million map stones. It's ridiculous. But yeah. No, we can stop talking about that. That's just
That's fine.
That's off topic.
Well, it is, but it's not.
Fair.
So, but Kirk, those are your options. Hope you do something about your metagaming situation, because I hate metagaming in games. Archaeologist hates metagaming in games. I mean, it ruins the game if you have outside knowledge. If you're going to have outside knowledge like that, like,
yeah,
pass a note to your DM.
I find that I mean when we play, yeah, there's messages going to the DM and stuff like that, and but there's also the people that you play with, we're all kind of on the same page that we wouldn't like it, so we make an effort to not. I think that's the other thing is that we have this awareness of hey, this is a thing, this is a thing, this is a thing, and I mean like Kat and I have talked about my character because we kind of wrote this thing together, dealing with the world that Fox is building. Because I had this idea for my character, and I kind of threw it out there, or made it, and sent it to him. And he was like, okay, so this, and this does not exist. And I'm like, well, you should have told me that, because now I have to rewrite the entirety of the character. And that's actually what I ended up doing, instead of, the only thing that's the same is the species and, like, the fact that he started on his adventures very, very, very young. And that's that's the difference. So, but, saying, hey, what is this? Can you do this? And then Kat and I talked back and forth dealing with her character a bit and her character's world and backstory. And I was like, okay, so we can fold this together and make it work. But I've read about her characters and her character's backstory, which will be revealed in the game. And she's read mine, but we're both kind of on the same page of, we're not going to, throw that out there as oh, hey, we know this, and let it ruin the flow of the game.
I'm just a lowly archaeologist.
Yeah, I didn't tell Tiny that I was getting on the chat tonight.
I didn't tell her either, so
sorry.
No, it was a surprise.
She missed my live this morning, which is why she doesn't know. Which she sent me a message saying I missed your live. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, but
I was on it for
like
20 minutes. It was not that big of a deal.
Was it 20?
Yeah, it was not very long. It was not very long because my friend and coworker showed up, and I turned it off. I had a bunch of pictures to show her. She runs the restoration department.
Okay.
So she's the one who goes up and rough-hews new logs for the old cabins in the backcountry. She's badass. And I brought a bunch of pictures that I had acquired from the Grangeville office. And inside was a bunch of photos dating back to like the 30s of lookouts and stuff that she has worked on. So she's looking at stuff that, right after these things were built and seeing what's different between now and, and back then, and helping her formulate her ideas and her understanding of what needs to be done to maintain the integrity of these structures. So anytime I find cool little photos like that, I bring them to her. And then she showed me that she has 4 binders of photos taken by Motorpool in like the 80s of all of the vehicles and stuff, and like accidents that happened with forest vehicles and machinery, like a grader that rolled down the mountain and doesn't look like a grader anymore. And of course they're all, 4x6.5s or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, they were going to throw these binders of photos away. So she saved them because she's also kind of a pack rat. So I was looking through those today, which is pretty cool. Nice. It goes into my adventure tomorrow, which I'm not going to talk about any further.
Okay.
We'll see. If something happens, I will share it. But if something doesn't happen, I may share it. I don't know.
Okay. Hey. We always like to keep adventures close to the chest. Yeah, especially sometimes. Archaeology stuff.
It's not archaeology so much as it is what it is. Anyway.
All right, so we're gonna get to questions, and I went through this logically and linearly. Okay.
Okay.
The first question comes from Kirk.
Okay.
And it is: I recall learning that the earliest known human settlements of North America were the Clovis people. But recently I've been hearing about other finds date thousands of years prior to Clovis people. Some findings are old enough that they are being disputed. What gives? What is the current, generally accepted earliest peoples in the Americas? And are any of the recent findings maybe not findings at all? And were any of these peoples pirates? His last minute save to keep this question on topic.
Well, we'll start at the beginning of that. So yeah, you would have learned at some point that the Clovis people were the oldest peoples to inhabit North America, because for a long time that was the hypothesis that worked. That was what was backed up by the proof that we had and the evidence that we had. It's called the Clovis first hypothesis, and the idea is based around a site that was found in New Mexico at Clovis, New Mexico, which is like the type site, and it was a cache of tools and various other artifacts made out of stone that were found at a depth that suggested they were between 11,000 and 13,000 years old. They were found in 1929. So keep in mind that archaeology itself has come on a massive amount of advancements and such between 1929 and even the 1980s, where Clovis first really was against the ropes and people were moving away from Clovis first being a thing. Now, I want to explain Clovis first, or the Clovis people, a little bit, because I don't like the term Clovis people. I don't like the title Clovis people, because they're being the Clovis people are known by their tools. Okay, so this would be the equivalent of the Phillips head screwdriver people, or the carburetor people, or the musket people versus the AR people. You know, it's a very specific type of technology which is perfect for the environment and the time period and the prey that they're hunting. It's kind of the pinnacle of that technology's development, and it's very common because this is what worked and everybody liked what worked, you know, and through trade and communication, and you'll see Clovis sites all over the country. The thing is, though, is that you know, other than their tools, we know very, very little about the Clovis people. There's rock art and stuff out there that is likely Clovis, but rock art is notoriously hard to date. There is one Clovis burial that has been found, which is the Anzac Boy from a burial site near Red Lodge, Montana, who is 12,500 years old. His DNA was sequenced about 12 years ago and established that he shares genetic markers with that are similar to that of Kennewick Man, and several burials down in Mexico, or graves that were found within cenotes. And then there is a number of identifiers that very closely tie his lineage to peoples in Siberia and Eastern Asia, which makes sense because that is the pathway of migration. The Clovis hypothesis itself worked well when it was first thrown out there, because in 1929 they had X amount of information, and all of the Clovis sites had kind of the same information. They were similar depths, they were buried with similar, you know, they were found in similar contexts. So it was very easy to say, hey, these are the earliest things. And again, this is before the methodology and stuff we have now. However, even by the 1960s, there were archaeological sites that were pushing the dates of Clovis back, saying, well, hey, if Clovis is 10 to 13,000, we found a site that is 15,000, according to the depth. You know, we found sites that are, 17,000, and that's based on the depth, and that's based on some carbon dating. Now, that carbon dating, of course, is a little bit dicey because it was done in the 1970s, and carbon-14 dating technology, like everything else, has improved greatly. So in the 70s, you get a carbon-14 date, which is, you have a 5,000-year window of wiggle room. Nowadays, you have a 50-year window of wiggle room because the technology has gotten so much better and we can extract more information out of the sample. Clovis first really gets the final nail in its coffin in the late 1980s when an archaeologist whose name I cannot remember, I want to say Jules, something like that is their first name, in Alaska, published a paper saying essentially that the Clovis peoples were not the first people in the Americas because they had excavated a cave site in the Yukon that carbon dating from a bone, from a horse jawbone with incised lines on it, meaning somebody sat there with a tool and they were counting days, they were whittling, they were playing tic-tac-toe, any number of different things. That carbon 14 date was 24,000 years old, which is a significant jump past Clovis. And of course, a lot of people push back because we're going to argue the point. There's lots of people, like, I mean, some of the people that wrote the book on how we do archaeology today, they did their master's work on Clovis. So yeah, these old guys are going to be a little bit, hesitant to accept something new that they might have to go back to the work that made them an archaeologist and rescind what they said or change what they said or acknowledge that, hey, no one likes being quote unquote wrong, even though they wouldn't necessarily be wrong. It's just new information has presented itself. So at this point in 2026, Clovis first is dead. Clovis first is a boogeyman in the closet that educators and teachers and archaeologists use as a example of how the field has changed. So nowadays we say, hey, here's Clovis first. When it was found in 1929, it set the date for 13,000 years old. Cool. And it worked until other information was found. And as the technology got better, we were able to get more data from these archaeological sites that shows that no, the Clovis were not the first peoples here. And in fact, those who made Clovis tools were the descendants of peoples who showed up here thousands of years earlier. There's two sites, one in Idaho, one in Oregon, that are 16.7 and 18.6 consecutively. And these are sites with fire. These are sites with carbon samples to take, butchered animal remains, tools. They are habitation sites that had been visited multiple times. So the sites themselves are very deep. You have lots and lots of stratigraphic data to go back and look at. But, some of the deepest, lowest levels of those sites are, in fact, closer to 20,000 years old than not. We have the White Sands site in New Mexico, where a carbon date from a seed that was trapped in one of the footprints that was found there, because that's a trackway of footprints along what would have been a lake at the time. That has dated the site to 21,000 to 23,000 years old. So, you have a site within the same region as the original Clovis hypothesis site, and it's another 10,000 years older. So this shows that we are, as we're able to extrapolate evidence more, get more data out of what we're finding, and we're able to do more in-depth work, we are moving that period of migration of peoples into the Americas further and further back. Now, stuff like with Cerruti Mastodon, which is a site that some people claim is 136,000 years old and shows evidence of early people. There are if you need 20 things to prove something, Cerruti has 4. Meanwhile, all of these other sites have 17, 18, they have a lot more information. And that is because we have all sorts of stuff talking to everything else. The earlier dates actually don't. I'm looking in the chat here. The earlier dates do not have a problem with the ice bridge, because what a lot of information is now showing is that there was actually a corridor that was open, and that Beringia, the landmass between Alaska and Russia, was in fact exposed during the Ice Age. There's a thing called the Mammoth Steppe, which was an ecosystem that stretched pretty much from the Brooks Range of Alaska, maybe a little bit further west or east, to Moscow. It was this massive grassland environment, stupidly cold, stupidly dry, no snow, but I mean, so dry it wouldn't snow kind of thing. But still, it was during this time period that was technically the glacial maximum. So yes, you did have massive ice sheets, but here you have this giant open landscape that is not covered in ice and is still this migratory route system for horses, camels, mammoths, all sorts of creatures, which go back and forth over the Beringia constantly. Humans are no different. Humans are following the animals going back and forth. So the idea that there was an ice bridge there, ice bridge doesn't really work anymore, but this exposed landscape of Beringia, which is now underwater, it's a couple 100 feet underwater at its deepest point, but you're still looking at, when the Ice Age, when everything was tied up in the glaciers during the glacial maximum, our shorelines were out several miles from where they are presently, and you're looking at water that is a depth of anywhere from 30 to 300 feet deep that 15,000 years ago would have been dry. It would have been dry. It would have been relatively temperate climates. It's near the water. It's got the warmth coming off of the ocean, so there would have been vegetation there for longer parts of the year. Animals would have found it, most appealing to walk down that route, and therefore so would people. So there was a corridor essentially off the coast of North America from Alaska down to California. There would have been a corridor of open land. All of the channels and stuff in the islands like Sitka and British Columbia and stuff, all of those inlets and stuff would have been exposed canyons. They would have been open to the air. And then you have this ice-free corridor that is on the other side of the Rocky Mountains, so east of here, but goes pretty much up Alberta into the Yukon and into Alaska, where you would have this landscape that's still icy. It's still got snow. It's still cold, but you would still have access to resources, which is one of the big things that gets in the way of long distance migratory travel. You either have to have all the supplies carried with you, which is difficult, or you need to be able to rely on the landscape as you go along. So in this situation, the ice bridge idea has faded away to the kelp highway and this open corridor and crossing of a dry landscape, which as the last glacial maximum started to fade and we, quote, came out of the Ice Age, was then inundated as the ice caps melted and the waters rose. Keep in mind, this takes thousands of years to happen. That's one of the things that the Graham Hancocks and the other pseudoscientists who try to say, who try to talk about sunken cities and all of these things, they don't take that into account, that the sea rise was anywhere from like a quarter of an inch to half an inch at the most for 1,500 years or longer. There was a couple of points, meltwater events A and B, which the water rose like 6 meters in one go over the course of 500 years. So, there's still people moving back and forth until, it's a gradual thing. The animals stop going because, hey, you have to walk across 50 miles of salt water and no edible food. Animals are going to stop and be like, yeah, this is not worth our time. And then a couple of generations later, it's a tidal flat. And then a couple of generations after that, it's inundated with water and you can't, it's no longer able to be crossed. So, yeah, I mean, people were here certainly earlier than Clovis. That's just a long way around saying that. And the reason why Clovis first and that hypothesis outside of archaeology continues to live is because it makes for good television. And there's certain people like my buddy Graham Hancock who goes, well, archaeologists, they're not wanting to tell you about the Clovis people. Or he holds up the Clovis people and say, well, archaeologists said this, and now they don't talk about it anymore.
Or they're not looking in the right spots because
ignoring 40 years of archaeological methodology development and study is what he's not looking at and not paying attention to. Because if he did, his hypotheses no longer work. And he doesn't get to have his TV show, and he doesn't get to have $7 million an episode, and he doesn't make any more money.
I wish we got $7 million an episode.
I don't think I've ever seen what $7 million looks like, other than a number on a piece of paper. But it's yeah. So, so here's the thing: is It's not that I don't like the name Clovis. It's I feel that the application of the name is flawed. I would rather that we had a name that reflected the people based more on, their culture than what they made, their toolbox. And Clovis, I mean, if you don't know this, Clovis is named after the French king Clovis, which comes from a book that was being read by the daughter of the railroad foreman, who named the town Clovis in New Mexico because it was on the Santa Fe Railway. So that's why the name of the town is Clovis, is because it was in a book being read by the daughter of the foreman, who essentially said, hey, this is a good spot to put up a depot. And they named it Clovis. And then the site itself is within, I don't know, 10 or 15 miles of the town. So they named it the Clovis site because it was the closest thing.
That's kind of like how Moore, Oklahoma got their name.
Yep.
Guy parked a railroad car on the railroad track. His last name was Moore. He put Moore on the railroad car so that he could get his mail, and the town of Moore was born.
Yep. Yeah. So the town of Garnett, the same thing. They wanted to name it the town Mitchell because there was a doctor that everybody really liked who had spent a lot of money kind of investing in the town. And they're like, well, we want to name it Mitchell. But there was already a Mitchell, Montana. So the next thing they did was, what's these little red rocks in the dirt here? Oh, these are garnets? Let's name it Garnett. So they named the town Garnett. I mean, because, hey, there's some stuff on the ground, So yeah,
that was a good lesson on Clovis.
Yeah, so I mean, Clovis worked in the beginning, and it's a fantastic example of how, with the introduction of new information and new science and new technology that allows us to get more data from our samples and our findings at an archaeological site, how things change in what we know. When they first found those tools, their date is based wholly on how deep they were and the stratigraphy of the site. Nowadays, you can find on those same tools, if you found another set of them, it's very possibly to extrapolate DNA evidence from microfractures in the stone that tell you that the last person handling that tool used it to cut open a North American camel or a Pleistocene horse, or a mammoth or something like that. We can actually tell what people were eating. We can tell in some sites at like kill sites and stuff that are mastodons, are megafauna that have been extinct for 10 to 15,000 years. We can find at those sites in the soil with the bones. We can tell you what time of year they were killed, because we can test for and get data from the pollen that is still in the dirt. Now, all of this costs money. It all takes time. Multiple samples have to be done and tested and walked through before you say, yes, we can tell you that this site is, 14,136 years old, and, this animal was killed in June based on the pollen. There's a lot of work that has to go into that, but that data and stuff is there. And the fact that, it's less than 100 years between the founding of Clovis and the fact that we can tell you what time of year and what flowers were blooming at the site when those were buried is astounding. Mm-hmm. It also means that, hey, we have to change some information that we do look at, and that is that the Clovis people are not the first, culture in the Americas, because the reality is that the people who showed up 24,000 years ago, their descendants are the Clovis, and then the descendants of the Clovis are the indigenous peoples of today. When you have a situation where someone says, and I pick on Graham Hancock, so we're gonna pick on him again.
Go for it.
Graham Hancock and the television shows, they say these people disappeared, like every single individual of that population just walked into a cloud of green fog and were gone. No, they didn't disappear. That's just ridiculous. Things about their cultures changed. They adapted to living in a landscape that no longer had megafauna in it, so they're not going to make these giant mammoth killing spear points. Disease has showed up and wiped out, a massive amount of the population that lives in a giant city, i.e. smallpox. The surviving population, which, we're still talking half the people that live there, in some cases, you can't keep the infrastructure up. You can't feed everybody. You can't do all of these things. So what do? You break into smaller groups that are better able to survive. Your people didn't disappear. What happened was your style of life and your identities changed. Remember, we all used to be British. What happened? We had a war. We kicked the British out. We decided we're no longer British. We're all Americans. And now we have this distinct cultural identity. And we've evolved into what we are. But the British American colonies didn't just up and disappear. They changed and they became something else. So all the way through history, when you see someone who goes, oh, these people disappeared. No. There's...
You know what that term is? That term is called evolution.
Yep.
And people continue to say that evolution is stagnant. No, evolution is still going on. It's just microevolution.
Evolution, it, depending on what you're looking at, applies to so many things. I'm gonna throw something out there to you. The evolution of the airplane. Airplanes aren't animals.
128 years.
120 years of flight. Airplanes are not animals. However, we took the principle of flight, the science behind flight, and then we changed it and we modified it and we built something new, and then we changed it and modified it and built something new. So, in 100 years, or less than 100 years, we went from the Wright brothers and their motorized box kite to putting a man on the moon.
60 years.
60 years. And yeah, granted, there were 2 world wars and a dozen little smaller ones in there that kind of helped push that need for technology. But when you think about it, the airplane itself has evolved. We're the god in this case, but, it meets a requirement and changes to adapt. Airplanes used to be made out of metal or wood and fabric. You put a bigger engine in to go faster. The wooden fabric isn't strong enough. Okay, so now you have to start using metal and wood and fabric. And then you find out that the wood is the weak link. So you do all of metal. And then as the engines get more powerful, you can put on metal skin. So you go away from fabric and you go to metal skin. And then, it's heavy. So you need to put a bigger engine on it. And all, it just keeps going and going and going. But those are evolutionary points that if you look at an animal in the animal kingdom, you can see the same kind of development. Horses go from being things the size of a cat to Clydesdales. And the reasons why is that they're adjusting to their environment, they're adjusting to the food, they're adjusting to their predators. And if something changes, they have to change or they go extinct. So the animals that have some sort of random mutation that allows them to digest leaves instead of grass or grasses instead of leaves, that's the line that ends up surviving while others die out.
Teeny says we should have grass cock pinatas. We pick on them if we get candy.
I agree. We should have pinatas, and we should, at the very least, we should have a little button that when you push it, the pinata swings down in the chat and people can hit
it. I wish we had that. But we still have 2 other questions. And to finish out the Clovis question, Kirk, no, none of the Clovis people or even the pre-Clovis people were pirates.
Well, what do you mean by pirate? I actually thought about this. I seriously thought about this. So here's the deal. Here's the deal is that you could call somebody, somebody who steals music is a pirate, right?
Yes.
The principle is the idea of somebody that comes along and steals something from another person. You really want to break down pirates to the simplest.
It could have been pirates. Let's put it
there are peoples who were pre-Clovis or Clovis who filled the role of pirates at some point. They did steal from each other because humans are awful,
food, and
therefore they steal things. Humans are humans. Pirating in respect to humanity is almost an expected evolved behavior to exist. But I actually thought about that. I saw that and I was like, I know it's just tying it in because it's a pirating podcast. No. We're gonna be serious.
So Kevin,
they would have been highwaymen more than pirates, but that's not the point.
Yeah. So Kevin says there used to be giant unicorns too, but he forgot what they were called. Yeah, they're called rhinos, armored tanks.
Well, there's rhinos, and then hell, did I send you the unicorn on Instagram?
The deer,
the elk.
The elk, is it an elk?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So, and what's crazy is that this is not the first time I've seen something like that happen. A friend of mine actually shot a bull elk that looked like he'd already dropped one antler, and it turns out that he had not. His other antler was coming out of the center of his forehead, and it was just this short little fork. And there was he got the skull bugged and everything. He was like, I want to see what this looks like, and it looks like he had been stepped on as a calf.
Oh,
and it had actually had a skull fracture, which it wasn't enough to damage like the brain and the brain case, but it was enough to damage the button where his antler was. So he had a horn growing out of his forehead. And when this antler would drop off, he would have a single from the forehead horn.
Nice.
So, until he got turned into sausages.
Is that the same thing that's going to happen to the two-headed bear in Northern California?
Are you talking about the flag, or are you talking about
the actual two-headed black bear that people see walking across the street?
I was not aware that was a thing.
I'll have to send you that video. But thanks for that question, Kirk. Our next two questions come from Puffy Cheeto, though.
Yeah.
And she asks, and because this is linear...
Or you want to keep with linear?
We're going linear.
Okay.
She's read many books and seen many documentaries regarding Göbekli Tepe. What are your thoughts on this excavation site? How long do you think will it take to fully excavate? And what do you think it will teach mankind when fully excavated?
Question number 3, kind of at the same time. It's not.
It's not going to be fully excavated.
It's not going to be fully excavated.
No.
So part of that is the regulations and laws, cultural laws in Turkey are a bit different. But academically speaking, there is a desire for a large archaeological site like that to be preserved in situ. And it's lasted for 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 years. So, I mean, if we left it alone, it would have lasted for another couple of thousand years more. So there was a desire to leave a part of that site unexcavated. Now, obviously, if we were just to leave it to nature, trees would grow and the trees would eventually damage the underground deposits and animals would burrow through and everything. So I think at Göbekli Tepe, because it is a cultural World Heritage Site, there is a facility there to do work and preserve it, and it is staffed. Trees and animals are going to be kind of removed from the equation of time when it comes to that. So parts of the site that don't get excavated, or they are holding off on excavating, will remain pretty stable for a very long time. But I believe there is an intention to leave parts of the site undisturbed for posterity. For right now, let's leave it for generations and generations and generations down the line. Nothing conspiratorial about it. I'm going to throw that out there because Göbekli Tepe is swirled with conspiracy theory. But it is
Aren't they all, though?
The ones that get on a TV show made by a certain guy that we need a pinata of. But yeah, so to say that Göbekli Tepe, to say that, it's going to be fully excavated, maybe after I'm dead at some point. But I believe there is a desire to keep parts of it intact. It's kind of like there's a desire to keep animals from going extinct. People want to hunt them. People want to look at them in zoos. People build on their landscape and all this stuff. But there's still this desire to keep certain animals alive for posterity. And so we put protections in place trying to keep them that way. Same with an archaeological site, especially one the scale of Göbekli Tepe. Looking at cultural work in the States that I have done, depending on the nature of the project, if we can avoid doing excavations or excavating in a site in its entirety, we do. We change the projects accordingly if we can. So unless there is an absolute need 100% for the site to be excavated, 100%, parts of the site are left intact in situ for posterity. My very first job in the Southwest was a 100% excavation. And when I tell you the undertaking was so massive for a site that was not very big in the grand scheme of scale, size. I mean, we are talking the project ended up curating over 60,000 artifacts. We moved by hand somewhere to the tune of 26 tons of rock. We excavated vertically 11 meters down into this landform. It was, and it went $6 million over budget and 5 months out of project, budget too. It was so huge, but they were like, we want a 100% excavation of this because the landform itself was going away. I mean, it was getting nuked. They blew it up. They cut the mountain in half. They did all this land work to make it go away. For the highway department. But the point is that if it had been bigger, they would have 100% excavated the site where it was going to be damaged or destroyed, and they would have left as much of it as possible. If the landform had been different, if the draw had been different, they would have moved the entire project. It would have been cheaper to move the highway than it was to do this project.
So Kevin asked in the chat, what is the site famous for? He hadn't heard of Göbekli Tepe.
Okay, so a bit of background on Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe is a site in Turkey that is considered the first religious site. And I want a religious site. The first place of the first temple, the first place of widespread worship kind of thing. It looks like an observatory made of stones. It's on a prominent hilltop, in a landscape that's not very friendly. And when it was being excavated, you're getting pretty deep into a time period where for a long time, again, this is kind of like that Clovis first mindset, where you have archaeologists a long time ago saying this point in time, humans weren't doing agriculture. So there was no point and no reason to build a giant structure. Civilization doesn't come along for another 2,000 or 3,000 years. And yet we have Göbekli Tepe, which is kind of spitting into the face of that, which I disagree with for a number of reasons. The biggest of which is that Göbekli Tepe does not exhibit a bunch of the things that are associated with what some people have called it. Graham Hancock calls it an observatory, and he's referred to it as a settlement and a city and a town. Other individuals who push alternative histories and stuff say that it's a city. It's not. It is a very, in the grand scheme of human occupation, not a very large site. It's only a couple of acres. Well, I guess 15 acres maybe. So I guess a little bigger, but then, there's hobby farms that are smaller, but how big is a city block in New York? Just the footprint of it, it's got to be smaller than 15 acres or something like that. Pirate will find out the exact size of it. I might be incorrect on that. The point is that there's no material culture that's been excavated from Göbekli Tepe that suggests a living population. There's no burials. There's no large-scale trash middens. There's no areas of human occupation. There's no housing. There's no stables for livestock. It is very much like a church in the sense of here's a structure that has been built for a purpose, and it does not seem to have any of the other civilizational cues of being a city or a town.
So
now,
Göbekli Tepe is a 15-meter, 50-foot high 8 hectare or 20-acre tell.
Yes.
And a tell is an artificial topographical feature consisting
I
of
have
the
one.
accumulated stratified debris.
I have one.
You have a tell?
I have one. I have one. So a friend of mine got me the world's coolest fucking keychain.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm going to show this and people are going to be like, this is dumb. So this is a tell. It looks like a little hill made out of dirt. Okay. But the idea is that when you turn it at the bottom, it's got stone tools and bones.
Cool.
And then it's a fidget. You open it and you have the first layer, which shows like a pit house.
That's awesome. That's an awesome keychain.
You know, and then you kind of turn it over and there's like a Venus of Waldorf figurine and some other artifacts. And then but you see the way it breaks into layers illustrates how a tell is created. It's an artificial mountain or an artificial hill that as humans live there and change it and modify it accordingly, it gets taller. You know,
so
go ahead.
I was gonna for modernity, take a look at, for everybody in the chat, take a look at your city's landfills. Those are tells.
Yep. Those are tells.
And in 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, when our future people are excavating these, they're going to know what we had for breakfast 500 years ago.
You know, tells are landscapes that are used by humans, and the layers of human occupation are one on top of each another. And Göbekli Tepe, I feel, has always been a prominent landform, which explains why it was a place that people came to. And at the time period, the earliest time period from the site is samples, carbon-14 dating. The deepest samples is, I want to say, 13,000 years or something like that. And it's burnt offerings, or it's burnt stuff. I say burnt offerings because, hey, it's a religious site. But it's burnt stuff. It's charcoal. It's cut bone. It could be a cooking fire for all I know. But the point is that is the bottom level. The stonework, the pillars, the all of this other stuff doesn't necessarily have to have occurred when that carbon sample was laid down, however many eons ago. And I've highlighted it like burying a fence post, okay? Because you have standing stones, right? You got to keep them stable. You can't just, I mean, some of the rocks are, I think, what, 25 feet tall or something like that. If you were to excavate them out of the ground fully. You don't just put a rock on the ground that's that tall and expect it to stand there. You have to bury the base of it. So when people, namely television, namely the pseudoscientists, say that Göbekli Tepe is 13,000 years old and we didn't have civilization and agriculture back then, they're basing it on how deep the stones are buried. And or where this, like where the base of the stone is. The base of the stone is in the 13,000-year-old dirt. For anybody who's put in a fence post, you dig down 2 or 3 feet and you set the post in the ground. Well, that dirt 2 or 3 feet down might be 200 years old. Is your fence post 200 years old now? Or did you dig down to an older strata and set something on top of it? That's a site disturbance, if anything else. You know, you're excavating strata out and you're putting something in on top of it. At Göbekli Tepe, I would be willing to bet my entire career in archaeology that it started out as a meeting point. And then over the eons, because it was in use for like 6,000 years, over the eons, it changed accordingly with people and culture. So at some point, it might have been just a hill with a pile of naturally occurring rock on top that you could see from a long distance away. So it's a point of navigation. And then at some point, some cultural practice had people leaving an offering there. And then another cultural practice a couple generations later had people meeting there. And then the more people that met there, the more it became kind of a stop on the migratory pathways of peoples moving through the region. And then it became, you know, oh, hey, we're always parking here. Maybe we do something else. And then the more and more and more use it saw, the more changes it saw, and the more remodeling it saw. You know,
you've officially been accepted by the chat.
I should be. I should have been accepted the moment I got in here. I'm just as mad as everybody else.
You were. But first you made Stephen King not real, and now you're asking us to
How did I make Stephen King not real? You're going to have to explain that to me.
To use common sense. Why will fly?
I have a thing about common sense that, I mean, people need to use it. Like, do I say what I said? Do I say how my morning went? Do I share it with the chat? How many people are in the chat? How many people are going to like share this with their friends? And I'm going to get infamous for this situation.
We got like 5 people in the chat.
Okay. So common sense needs to be more of a thing. Say you wear something out that is antagonistic and offensive. You cannot be upset when someone says something to you back that kind of smacks you in the face. Which is what happened today to me at the gas station.
You got smacked in the face?
No, I got hit on.
Whoa.
I got hit on by a lady who had a very large, jacked up Chevrolet Brodozer with pink license plates, so you know it was hers. But she had a fucking Trump 2028 shirt on. And she was trying to flirt with me, and she was trying to talk to me because I had the dogs in the car, and some people are weird and think I'm attractive. And she wasn't leaving me alone, and I was really not having any sort of thing. She's being obnoxious, just like they do. So she doesn't get to be upset when she's annoyed me to the point, by the way, I'm still getting coffee at this juncture. When I turn around and in front of everybody in line and the 2 cashiers, I say, I'm sorry I don't stick my dick in the mentally ill. I'm sorry I didn't have my coffee yet. The point is that if you wear a stupid shirt out, people are going to call you on it. And you show your support for a pedophile, people are going to call you on it.
Yep.
So I did.
But doesn't she realize common sense?
Common sense.
Trump can't run in 2028?
No, but that's not the point. And then common sense, if you look historically speaking, for every archaeological site you look at, common sense results in changes to make an occupation site better. So, Göbekli Tepe changes through the eons to reflect what is happening in culture and society at the time. And then eventually, it gets abandoned because the culture changes and there's no longer a need for it. Agriculture has made the landscape more sedentary. People are not traveling. It itself is out of the way, which means it no longer has a function. And it eventually just, quote unquote, disappears into the landscape because there's no one around to take care of it anymore. Which is what happens in the big cities in the Central and South America once the jungle kind of creeps in and takes over things. The deposition of leaves turn into soil. The buildings get buried in 50 years because of the temperature and the climate. These places require human activity to survive. And when they don't have human activity, for whatever reason, they wind up going into the archaeological record like Göbekli Tepe. And then...
And what's funny is Göbekli Tepe isn't the only site in that region.
It's not. There's Karahan Tepe,
which is 46 kilometers away.
Yep, and which makes sense. Think of a lighthouse. Do you have one lighthouse, or do you have lighthouses along a route?
You know what it is? It's the fires of Gondor. The flames of Gondor.
Yep. The beacons have been lit.
Yep.
You have so ancient humans, we got to really enforce this on some people, and I know people in the chat probably are way ahead of us on this. Me saying this, ancient humans are way smarter than people have ever given them credit for. There is no difference between the brain capacity of an Egyptian from 5,000 years ago and me sitting at the table in front of you. Our brains are the same.
Just the knowledge information we are
chemically handing. They are capable of doing the same thing. It's the outside stimuli of education and worldview and influences upon us while we live that makes the difference. You could take, and I don't know for anybody who listens to history podcasts, but there's a guy, Dan Carlin, who does this podcast called Hardcore History. He's fantastic. 100%. I recommend it. He has thrown out this notion a couple of times because he covers stuff that's kind of wild and insane and scary, where he talks about taking a modern child, an infant, and putting them in a time machine and sending them back to the time of the Spartans, to be raised in Sparta. Nowadays, we don't use knives and swords in battle. Meanwhile, you take a child and you send them all the way back to the time of Sparta at its height and let them be raised in that society. Is there going to be a difference between them and the Spartans? Or is essentially nature versus nurture? And it really comes down to how people, it's nurture. Everybody, this has been proven with children. Children are not racist. You see children of any ethnicity playing together until outside stimuli directs them in a direction to be antagonistic to other people of a different ethnicity or whatever. Until that happens, you see all of these children playing together and they don't care about ethnicity. They're all playing together. Conflict comes up if someone's not sharing a toy. It's not, has nothing to do with the stimuli of that nebulous ethnicity thing. So you very feasibly could take a modern day human being and send them back 10,000 years as an infant and have them raised in that society, and they would be absolutely fine. You could take an individual from 10,000 years ago, put them in a time machine, send them all the way to the future, to today as an infant, and raise them in modern day society, and they're going to be driving a BMW and listening to an iPod and using a cell phone as second nature like we all do today. But if you take an adult from both of those time periods and switch them, just like you do with the infants, that is where the situation is going to be different, because we're going to get sent back in time to where people regularly ate offal, which is the internal organs of the cow or the pig or the sheep, instead of what we eat, which is the muscle mass. That's going to be something that we're going to recoil at. Oh, I don't want to eat, fucking gallbladder and liver and lungs, boiled. I don't want to eat that. That's gross. Meanwhile, the people from that time period will be like, it's food. Learn how to do it. It's gonna be, even 100 years ago, our grandparents or great grandparents are digging ditches that are 10 miles long and they're not using a piece of heavy equipment, it's 50 guys with shovels. You know, they're building skyscrapers in New York 100 years ago using someone who's carrying a bucket of red hot rivets up, 50 stories to some girders where there's a couple of guys with sledgehammers, and they're swinging and beating these things into place, and they're doing it all day long with no brakes.
And
We
no
can't get
safety
somebody
gear.
and no safety gear, and they're doing it, and it's just what they do. Meanwhile, that kind of physical labor, that kind of expectation of work is something that us in 2026 look at and go, no, that's insane. Why can't I use a welder? Why can't I use a piece of heavy equipment? There was another thing I saw relatively recently talking about PTSD in soldiers. A modern day soldier would not be able to handle the combat stresses from the First World War. Did we have that conversation?
No, we didn't have that conversation, but I'm a PTSD suffering soldier.
Okay. So, but you get what I'm saying, right?
To a degree.
Because your stimuli from your time in the service is so fundamentally different than the time in the trenches. And then rewind the clock another 1,000 years is so much fundamentally different than guys swinging swords into each other from 2 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
The landscape of our mind, if that's what we're exposed to, accepts that. If it was 1066 and you grew up and were a soldier in 1066, you would have no problem fighting the way they did in 1066 when the Normans took over Britain. Those soldiers would not be able to function in the First World War environment or the environment in which you fought. Like, you would be overwhelmed by being in the First World War environment. But a World War I soldier would be overwhelmed being in your environment because of the influences on our worldview and our lives and how we are brought up. So we got way off base here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
That's fine. We talk about it. We talk about it a lot, but that was go Becky Tepe.
So go back Tepe, yeah. If we sent an ancient adult to our time, they were things we were wizards until they adjusted. Yes, but see, here's the thing. Here's another thing. I want to talk to that because there's always been this idea. There was a movie, Black Knight, I think it was. Who's the comedian?
I don't know.
There's this African American comedian who plays somebody who's sent back in time, and he becomes like a black knight in a medieval court. He shows I remember the scene. He takes like his ear pods and he puts them in these big horns. Yeah, Martin Lawrence. He puts them in these horns, and then he plays rap music to everybody in the court, and people don't know what to do. Well, somebody postulated that you could actually hand a cell phone to someone like Geronimo or Julius Caesar or Attila the Hun. You could hand a cell phone to somebody who's never heard of or could even conceive of a cell phone. And instead of them looking at it going, this is witchcraft, they would look at it with a cool, so? Because their worldview has not allowed them to even recognize the function of such a thing and what its capabilities are. It doesn't even factor into how they see the world. So it's a nothing. It's like a black bear. Black bears, or bears in general, don't recognize the sound of a jingling bell, because a jingling bell sound does not exist in nature. So when people put bear bells on their backpack or walking stick, the bears are more likely to show up because they're hearing something they don't cognate and recognize, and they're liable to come look at it. But it's not a symbol of danger. It's not a symbol of warning because it is so foreign to their brain, it does not compute.
But on the flip side, if you took something like a Zippo and used it in front of Genghis Khan, he would absolutely go crazy over it.
He would absolutely go crazy over it. Yes, but Zippo, if you think about it, is an evolution of a technology that he had. Flint and steel.
Mm-hmm.
Strike, strike, fire. Cool. Here's this thing. And when you look at a Zippo, what is it doing? It's striking a piece of metal against essentially a piece of stone. Fire. So
Teeny's like, so they recognize Hey Bear as nosy humans inviting them to lunch?
Pretty much. So the sound of a human voice, I think, registers on the level of like an animal. It registers on like in this like octave of animal. So a bear could hear a human voice and understand that it is another living creature in the woods. A bell, a jingle jingle bell, is so out there it doesn't register as a sound to them. Yeah, they would have a point of reference. Exactly. They would have a point of reference to that information. But a cell phone, what do you compare a cell phone to from the medieval period?
A carrier pigeon?
Assuming they had carrier pigeons.
Carrier crow? I mean,
carrier crow,
any bird that
a messenger, sure. But then you have to explain that it does it in the same moment on the other side of the planet. It would be a thing that it would be so far out of reach for their worldview that they might not give a shit enough to learn.
Nope. On to the next question, though.
Exactly.
And it's your favorite question.
Uh-huh.
Puffy Cheeto also asks, let's see if 6 is right. What are your thoughts regarding the Bermuda Triangle, Alaskan Triangle, all other weird triangles that make people, planes, boats disappear? Time warp, alien abduction, magnetic field force, hoax, or something else? I hate this question, but it's a Puffy Cheeto question.
So the Bermuda Triangle has been a thing that has, I will kid you not. I won't lie. I have been fascinated with the Bermuda Triangle since I was a kid.
Same.
Flight 19 has been my jam.
That's the 5P. That's the
5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers and the PBM Mariner that disappears looking for them. They disappear somewhere off the coast of Florida during a naval exercise where they fly out. They're supposed to bomb a target. They get lost. They get upside down. They have they disappear. And it's right after the Second World War, And at the time period, it's wild and crazy and insane because, here's modern airplanes with modern radios and well-trained crew members. How could they get lost and disappear off the coast of Florida? Well, what people don't realize is that happened in 1946. The radar is pretty spotty. Radio equipment in those airplanes was not nearly as good as people seem to think they are. And you have individuals who are flying in a landscape that they are not trained in. They're not familiar with. The guy who was leading the squadron was a very good pilot. It was like his second flight in that region. Taylor was not that familiar with the landscape. And if you fly a certain way and your bearings don't work, you can overshoot where you're going by miles. One of the ways I've always explained this is shooting a bullet from a rifle. At 100 yards, if you aim at a target and you sneeze or something and you move the barrel right when you pull the trigger and it moves the barrel 1/8 of an inch, your bullet will hit a foot off target down the range. Think of the same thing with airplanes. if you're flying, if you have a bearing, I'm going to turn here, but you don't account for the drift of your propeller, or your compass is a little off or something, you might fly in a straight line and completely miss where you're going by 15, 20, 30, 50 miles, depending on how far you're flying. Flight 19 disappears because of, the weather is turning bad. They're lost. They don't have running lights. Their position is boogered up. When you look at where they're flying, I mean, we're talking 1,500 square miles of space that they supposedly were flying around in. That's assuming the pilot error didn't get them turned around and they cross over south of the Keys when they think they're north of the Keys, which at 15,000 feet or 12,000 feet, I mean, there's a lot of discrepancies there. Places that have lots of disappearances, from what I understand, no, there is no actual science that shows that, yes, the compasses change in the Bermuda Triangle. Unless you know something I don't. I have never seen something that shows if you go into this certain area with a compass, the compass spins and you get lost. Never seen it. Because it happens all the time, especially nowadays, and nobody gets lost. How many people sail their boats from Florida to the Keys or the Keys to Bermuda regularly? And we're talking fishing boats. We're talking speedboats. I mean, how many people do that as a weekend and don't have any problems? I mean, lots. Places get certain names and certain auras about them because of naturally occurring factors. The Bermuda Triangle is part of the horse latitudes. You know what the horse latitudes are?
No, explain.
So the Bermuda Triangle is within a system of the Gulf Stream and some wind events and stuff where, like, the Sargasso Sea is in the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this point where it's subject to being becalmed. Just the weather patterns create like a donut hole. So you have this spot where wind-driven ships from the days of Columbus and onward would get into these places, and then the wind would go away. And you would be stuck in a weather event, naturally occurring, that would have the ships sitting there becalmed, and they couldn't move because they're wind-driven. So they would sit there in the heat and the sun, becalmed, cursed, if you will, back in the day when they didn't understand the weather nearly as much as they would today. And a lot of these ships that got becalmed at certain time periods were colony ships or galleons with conquistadors. And they're trying to support either British or Spanish possessions in the New World, and part of their cargo is horses. And horses drink a lot of water. And horses eat a lot of hay, and they don't do well with rationing. So they would throw the dead bodies of horses overboard. And the horses are floating in water that is still becalmed. So these ships are surrounded by the corpses of floating horses, which are, of course, rotting and putrefying and gross until sharks show up and start tearing them apart and sinking them, which, of course, sharks are bad and haunting and blah, blah, blah. So you have this region, which is a naturally occurring region that is explained by science, that has a very unsavory mythos to it, because those observations were made by people back in the day before we had the weather science to explain why. They would eat the horses in some cases, but that's a lot of horse meat to eat, and you have no refrigeration. There's the Devil's Triangle, which is, I think, the Alaskan Triangle, which is this big empty space that just so happens to be, again, within the middle of the jet stream and the Atlantic or the Pacific Current that goes around essentially the Ring of Fire in the Pacific. You have this big area of the North Pacific, which is not becalmed, but there's just not a lot there. shipping lanes really don't cut through it and stuff. So if a ship does get lost out there and have some sort of issue that naturally occurring, bad engine, fire on board, something like that, the ships can quote unquote disappear. And a lot of the time, remember, a lot of the accounts of ships disappearing up until the 1960s, these disappearances and stuff happen before modern technology as we have it, before even technology from the 70s. Because I think prior or after like the mid 60s, I don't recall seeing very many big ships or big airplanes or stuff disappear in the Bermuda Triangle. It's all little commuter airplanes or occasional little sailboats or speedboats and stuff like that. But then you're like, well, they're trying to cross 200 miles of open ocean at a time of year where you can have hurricanes in an open top speedboat. And their radio only goes 50 miles. They're trying to do stuff with little things that can get lost. It's like people, someone disappears in a car accident. Well, they rolled their car down the hill and you can't see it in the trees. They didn't up and disappear. It's just, the conditions are right to hide that thing. Mm-hmm. In the 1960s, you have a couple of big instances in the Bermuda Triangle, especially. One of them is called the Marine Sulphur Queen, which was a T2, World War II T2 type tanker, all the T's, that had been modified, the equivalent of like hacking the back off of a van and calling it a pickup truck, to carry molten sulfur as part of whatever industrial nastiness was going on in 1963 or 4. And the ship up and disappears with no survivors in the Gulf of Mexico, which is technically part of the Bermuda Triangle and has always been attributed to the Bermuda Triangle when something happens. And it's this big mystery because they only find a couple of pieces of debris and a life ring and part of a lifeboat. None of the crew survives. Well, they're hauling something that is a particularly nasty, awful cargo in a ship that is very poorly maintained and very possibly could have like flash ignited or wallowed and broke its spine in a slightly heavy sea because it's so poorly modified, and the ship gets swallowed up in 30 seconds because it's low in the water. It's got a heavy, awful cargo. No one's getting out of their bed if it's at nighttime when this happens. And if no radio call happens, people who do get off the ship but are floating without a life jacket, they're going to die of exhaustion and exposure in hours. So yeah, a ship that size disappearing in 1965 is like the outlier, but that explains why that would happen. Nowadays, though, we have stuff like EPIRBs, which are required equipment. You can't operate in American waters if you don't have even the barest minimum of stuff. But this barest minimum of stuff, like an EPIRB device on a wetsuit or on the ship, automatic distress signals, GPS, stuff like that, has prevented a lot of these big things from disappearing. The Star Ariel and the Star Tiger were airliners that were flying from Great Britain to the British Virgin Islands. They disappear. 2 prop-driven airliners disappearing in failing light and stormy shit weather at the very end of their operational range, and people think this is a mystery? No, they have no gas. I mean, they're not using computers when they're figuring out the gas in 1947 and 49. They're using gas tables and math written down and in their head, and they're trying to factor the airplane burns 50 gallons of gas an hour. We're traveling at 200 miles an hour. We have enough gas to get there, except they didn't count for the 30-mile-an-hour headwind that they wouldn't necessarily know existed because they don't have active weather radar. So
And the more weight you put on a plane,
the more
for
weight you put on the
passengers,
airplane,
the less fuel you have to put on there.
the less fuel you've got. And I mean, there's a whole thing. It's called the weights and balances of an airplane. When I was in flight school, that was like the one complicated math thing I did really well was weights and balances. You know, you have to make sure the airplane's balanced and trimmed correctly so you can take off from the ground. Airplanes and stuff that disappear in the Bermuda Triangle, I mean, there's scientific reasons why they disappear. The reason why there's a mystery as to why they disappeared is that we don't know what actually happened. It's like that airliner, that Malaysian airliner that disappeared. 8:30 or whatever it is. You know, the captain, or, you know, the instrumentation didn't work. That's why it was such a thing on the news and it was such a big deal, is because this modern airliner disappeared. But we can't say that the pilot had a nervous breakdown and purposely crashed in the ocean, because there's no way to prove that. We can't say that there was a fire on board and the airplane broke up in the air until we find that evidence, you know, and the ocean is a really big place. So until we find pieces of the airplane that show the control panels caught on fire, we can't say the plane had a fire. You know, we can't say, unless we find the pilot still in his seat with a suicide note on that says, I crashed the airplane on purpose. We can't say that he crashed the airplane on purpose. We can't, you know, we have all of these mysterious things. And it really just comes down to the legalese of, well, we can't 100% prove it, so we're not going to say it until we have proof. And then, you know, you're looking at such a massive amount of landscape in the ocean to try to find evidence. It's almost impossible. Which, if you flavor it with, you know, fancy language, sounds like mysterious, sexy television that gets people to pay attention and buy Pop-Tarts.
Gets Graham Hancock $7 million.
And gets Graham Hancock $7 million. You know, Graham Hancock said flat out in that interview he did with Flint Dibble and Joe Rogan that there is no archaeological evidence for anything he's talking about at any of the archaeological sites he visits on his TV show, which includes Göbekli Tepe. He flat said that it does not exist. But he still goes to these archaeological sites and he still says stuff on television, which sounds good to people who have no clue that he said that, or no clue on what archaeology actually is, or the history of the region. You have a guy on television telling you, hey, I'm going to share with you something special that the government doesn't want you to know about, or whatever his mindset is.
And for those of you in the chat, Mr. Graham Hancock has...
Hold that thought. I'm going to check something quick.
Holding this thought, because this thought is a thought that Wolf really, really likes, I think. While we're waiting for Wolf, let me tell you the results of our deadly dungeon, since we're getting there. Let me go here. So these are the winners of this week's deadly dungeon. We have Wesley beat Indy 67% to 33%. Ash with his boomstick beat Thomas Magnum 80 to 20. Alex Murphy RoboCop beat Jack Traven. That was a no-brainer. That was Keanu Reeves early. And Mad Max beat Jackie Chan.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Mad Max beats Jackie Chan.
Mad Max beat Jackie Chan. No, I'm sorry. Jackie Chan beat Mad Max. I was wrong. I read that wrong.
Lies.
Jackie Chan beat Mad Max.
You think Mad Max would play remotely fair?
According to the voting of the Oratrice Mécanique de l'Elysée.
You have to dance when you say that.
According to my algorithm, Mad Max beat Jackie Chan. But to back what I was saying, contrary to popular belief and everything, our good friend who knows Kung Fu, Mr. Keanu Reeves, has been taken in by Graham Hancock and his conspiracy theories. So
Keanu Reeves also is apparently writing a graphic novel that he reached out to Graham Hancock asking information about this stuff because he viewed Graham Hancock as an expert on the subject. So there's a financial reason behind it.
it was just Jackie Chan. And that's because you guys voted for him. Look, let me show you guys. Let me show you guys this. We're in Deadly Dungeon territory. Look, the Discord voted 67% for Wesley and only 33% for Dr. Jones. But my algorithm used Dr. Jones's whip to keep Wesley at bay, winning 55 to 45. Ash always wins because Ash has a chainsaw and a boomstick. Thomas Magnum doesn't have any of that. He's got a 45 caliber pistol. Alex Murphy always wins against Jack Traven. And Mad Max in neutral territory without the car, and Jackie Chan without superpowers. Mad Max beat Jackie Chan 54% to 46%. It was close. It was close. And you're laughing.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm reading the comments.
Because Wesley beat Indy.
Is that Wesley Crusher?
No, that's Wesley from Princess Bride.
Oh. Okay, sure. I see Wesley, and my first default is Wesley Crusher.
Wesley Crusher?
And I'm like, no.
No, it was the Dread Pirate Roberts Wesley from The Princess Bride.
I see.
But I still think Indy, with his bullwhip, could keep any fencer at a distance, so long as he's not suffering from dysentery while filming.
Well, then he just shoots him. I mean, but yeah, you never know.
Who knows? So, shall we figure out who is going to go to the Deadly Dungeon next week?
Sure.
Let's go. Wheel of Mortality. You know what? Give me a minute. I want to do something here.
Conan the Barbarian versus Samurai Jack.
Yep, that's who we got. There. Now, Wolf is here with 2.
Yeah. Let's see. King Leonidas versus Richard Kimball.
Yeah.
Han Solo versus Robin Hood. Which Robin Hood?
That would be, I don't know. Did we do Carrie Elwes Robin Hood, or did we do, I think it was Costner's Robin Hood.
Not Crows?
Not Crows. No. There's only 2 There was only 2 good Robin Hoods.
I don't think Russell Crowe did a bad job.
So, how many are we doing? Are we doing? Let's do 4. Let's do 4 again. Wheel of Mortality. Turn. Tell us the persons who we should burn. We get Han Solo and Robin Hood.
Huh. Sean Connery did do a Robin Hood. That is true.
Sean Connery did do Robin Hood. Tell me in the Discord chat which Robin Hood you guys want me to do. The animated Robin Hood, the Fox, Sean Connery's Robin Hood, Russell Crowe's Robin Hood,
Errol
Kevin
Flynn.
Costner's, Errol Flynn, or Carrie Elwes. Even though we already have Carrie Elwes moving forward as Wesley.
But what about the TV show Robin Hoods?
What do you mean the TV show?
Because there's the guy from Kingsman. He played a Robin Hood. And then there's a television show on the BBC that's Robin Hood.
I don't know any of these.
Yeah.
It's just Robin Hood. So. All right.
Seems to be Disney Fox Robin Hood.
Battle number 2. Wheel of Mortality, turn. Tell us the next 2 that we should burn. Hey, I was waiting on this one. Matthew Quigley versus President Marshall.
Oh, boy.
You know which President Marshall this is, right? President James Marshall was...
from Air Force One.
Air Force One.
Yeah.
So it's Tom Selleck and
Tom Selleck and Harrison Ford.
Ford.
I'm going to say Quigley, but I'm partial.
I just watched Quigley Down Under for the first time 2 weeks ago.
And
I liked it.
Is it not one of the best Westerns out there?
It's an Australian Western, so obviously.
It's got Tom Selleck in a cowboy hat. It counts as a Western in the States.
It's also got probably his second role, Alan Rickman.
Actually, his first role was Die Hard. I think his first role was Quigley.
No, his first role off of Broadway was Die Hard. Quigley was in 1990 or 91 or 92, something like that. But Die Hard was in 88. So Tom Selleck gets a reprieve because Thomas Magnum was Tom Selleck Magnum. Yes, James Marshall.
Yes, it is. Okay, so yeah, I guess it was his second American movie was Quigley Down Under.
Battle 3. Wheel of Mortality.
Tiny, Quigley Down Under is one of the best Westerns ever. And it has the best ending F off to the bad guy ever.
What do you say about this one, Wolf?
Casey Ryback versus Rick O'Connell. Well, I'm going to do a bad thing here and not know who the hell Casey Ryback is.
Under Siege and Under Siege 2 Dark Territory. They're both played by Steven Seagal.
Oh, fuck Steven Seagal. Rick O'Connell. Rick O'Connell. And it doesn't matter what the computer says. Rick O'Connell beats it. Fuck Steven Seagal. Fuck Steven Seagal all the way the fuck off. Fuck Steven Seagal. The more I hear about Steven Seagal, the worse. I mean, every single one of yeah.
So Casey Ryback,
you know he wanted to be in a movie about Genghis Khan? He wanted to make a movie about Genghis Khan, but he had to star in it as Genghis Khan. And then was like going to insist that people referred to him as Genghis Khan during the filming. I'm like, no.
I can't keep him seriously since he was a cop in a Louisiana
he was a
parish.
Cop on some on TV crime for TV show. Yeah.
No, he was just like Shaq. Shaq is a licensed cop in Miami. Badged and everything. Steven Seagal got badged and everything in a Louisiana parish. You're muted. You went out. Wait, what? Did you just die? Did I mute you? I don't know what I did. I didn't do anything.
How's that?
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know what you did.
I didn't do anything. That was on your end.
No one. Maybe it was. I have no idea.
So Casey Ryback was played by Steven Seagal. Under
fuck him.
Siege was him opposite Tommy Lee Jones, but Casey Ryback played.
But they're on the battleship, right?
On the Big Mo.
Yeah. So I remember seeing that he was like a cook.
He was a Navy SEAL who got in trouble, and the only jobs he could take was a yeoman or a cook.
Yeah. And then the other one was Under Siege 2, and he was like on a ranch in Nevada or some shit like that.
No, they were on a train.
Helicopter. Really?
Yeah,
he was on one where he was on a ranch, and there were people in a black helicopter and all that garbage. I don't know. It was on USA in like 1999, and it was all cut up for television, and it was garbage because Steven Seagal is a shit person.
Yeah. Oh wait, the guy with the mummy. Yes.
Yeah.
That's Rick O'Connell, and it's Brendan Fraser, and they're coming back with another movie.
There was harder guys who got leached of their life essence by a fucking shriveled up jerky corpse than Casey Ryback.
All right, so that's 3. Our fourth one of the evening.
Okay. Crank it up.
Hey, we're just going all out, aren't we? Oh! King Leonidas versus Richard Kimball.
Really?
I think the factual King Leonidas is going to beat Richard Kimball. Richard Kimball, Harrison Ford from The Fugitive.
God, I haven't seen The Fugitive in 30 years.
Jesus. Yeah, it's a Harrison Ford evening.
It is a Harrison Ford evening. I was going to say, like 2/3 of the people on here.
Well, the other night was freaking. We had one. Our first evening was all freaking. Who was it? Goldie Hawn's bow guy.
Kurt Russell.
Harrison Ford just running around switching hats, probably.
Yeah.
And claiming it was the guy with the one arm.
Rooster Cogburn.
Yeah, we got Rooster Cogburn. We got Xena versus Alice.
Ooh, I think Alice would have to take that.
How about Beatrix Kiddo versus Ethan Hunt? Now,
that's a toss-up.
Beatrix Kiddo is the bride.
Yep, I do know who Beatrix Kiddo is.
Ellen Ripley versus John Wick.
See, if you remove all outside variables, I don't know.
In space,
I'm going to have to give it to John Wick only because John Wick's entire life and development as a being is as a hitman and as a hired gun and stuff, while Ellen Ripley is not. She just happens to be in place to kill and destroy, xenomorphic aliens. Now, is it Ellen Ripley from the first movie, or is it the thawed out and reconstituted Ellen Ripley for like 400 years in the future in the last one? Or the clone?
It's Sigourney Weaver, whichever Ellen Ripley we want.
Well, they were all Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
So, if you're talking final form Ellen Ripley, that'll be a different story.
John McClane versus Race Bannon.
Who's Race Bannon? Remind me.
Race Bannon was the muscled up guy from Johnny Quest.
Oh, God. I think I saw like 2 episodes of Johnny Quest because it was on Cartoon Network and I didn't have cable when I was a kid. So I couldn't answer that. I'm going to say John McClane because if it's Bruce Willis, yeah. Riddick.
Riddick versus John Spartan?
Riddick. Riddick has no concept of apparently fear and can turn absolutely anything into a weapon.
But can he use the 3 seashells?
He can kill you with his teacup.
If you guys haven't guessed already, we are in chat. So if you guys want to throw in your good things of the week in the chat, we can discuss those. I got a good thing of the week. I got a new boss.
I know you got a new boss who's such a fucking DEI hire. They should fire him.
What the other people don't know is they're DEI hires also. And they're trying to get rid of DEI.
I know they are. That's the irony. Yeah, no.
Kash Patel
is such a... Yeah, he got hacked. Not surprising. So apparently, and no one's heard this officially, but apparently IT, and you might be affected by the IT. IT is being made to sign non-disclosure agreements as of next week because apparently there is discussion about tapping phones.
They could tap my phone all they want. I don't use it. This phone right here, this Apple piece of junk iPhone 14 is my work phone. What did you do? You're muted again. Hold on. I want to see something.
How's that?
That's good.
Okay. I don't know what it is. I think it's this headset. I think I should never have spent money on this headset. I think I should throw it away and buy a new one because I will be damned if this thing works an entire evening through, be it streaming D&D or on a podcast with you or anything else. It randomly does. It just shuts off or changes setting because I look at the stream. I have default microphone, which is this.
Right.
And then I have microphone, which is this. And then I have communication setting, which is this. And it's like skipping between them. Can't tell you why.
Wow.
So.
But yeah, there's questions. Tapping phones for what, though? What reason?
That's a great question.
They want to make sure that we're not talking shit about our boss's boss.
That's exactly what it is. Remember, this is the same administration that made me change my, like, they went in and deleted everybody's email signature, everyone's, to prevent people from having he or she in their email signatures because they're so scared of pronouns that they spent lots and lots of money to have people do this. Now, here's the thing. And I brought this up to HR and they're like, well, and I was literally told, well, why don't you put it in your email signature? I have been misgendered at work more than a couple of times. And the reason being is that there is a Morgan on, I want to say the Payette, who is, if I'm recalling correctly, like the real estate person. Land acquisition person. And then there's an engineer out of town here who is also Morgan, who I get those two confused, and I call both of them she. And then I find out, nope, the Morgan here in town, other than me, is like a 60-year-old guy. So, but I keep getting misgendered in emails with the tribe or with Shippo or in these emails where I'm brought in because I'm the heritage specialist or whatever. And I literally said, "Hey, what can I do about being misgendered in my emails? Can I put, how people know?" And they're like, "Well, they're just not going to be able to tell." I'm like, "That's bullshit. I thought this was supposed to be a safe environment safe from pronouns."
Oh.
I had a signature set up. I sent it to my boss. I was like, "What do you think of this for a signature?" And it was me, Forrest, phone number, and then at the bottom it was going to say, Master of Bones, Lord of the Trowel. It was like this 15 different entry, Hancock's Bane, and the mayor of a little village up the coast. And he was like, "That's awesome. You can't do that." I'm like, "Fuck." But yeah. I have to make a new handle for this knife.
Maybe that's something you could do at the gathering in 2 months.
Maybe. So this knife, I researched it because it's got a maker's name on it. This knife, they stopped building this knife in 1908.
Really?
Yeah. This is a buffalo skinner. Like legitimately foreskin in buffalo. It's by a company called J.B. Whiting of Denver, Colorado. And I looked it up, and this style knife is called a buffalo skinner. And I remember I found the blade, and I wanted to make it into a knife, and my dad put a handle on it, but this piece of handle is, it's not the best.
You're muted again. Your headphones died out. Hey, but at least we're not buffering.
How's that?
That's good.
Yeah, that's the microphone in my webcam. So I'll wear the headset so I can hear you because I don't have speakers. But if I sound tinny and weird from far away, it's because of that thing.
Get you a fine.
Beat it.
You can get a fine off of the TikTok shop for like $19, or you can get it off of Amazon.
If you're going to if you're going to protest tomorrow, leave your phone at home. I was not going to go to the protest because I forgot that the protest was happening tomorrow. I was going out of town.
I don't know what a protest, where the protests are happening tomorrow, because I don't follow that.
My headset is plug and play, but it's plug into the USB. It's not a plug into the microphone or the headset port. So I might have to just delete and reinstall it or get a new one. I have no idea. Flip a table and leave.
Oh, did you hear the latest from like Fortune magazine and every other news outlet that is covering it that didn't miss it?
That the United States is completely insolvent because the fucking dipshit has bankrupted the nation? Yes. He bankrupted casinos. Casinos literally print money.
The United States
people come in and give casinos money. The only way people stop giving casinos money is if the casino burns down.
Or has Donald Trump as an owner.
Or is Donald Trump running?
Here he was talking about the Sharpies and making the Sharpies look more freaking professional.
Sharpies?
Yeah. He said in an interview yesterday in one of his press briefings or whatnot, he was talking about a pen for damn near 20 minutes. we're gonna make we've been in talk with Sharpie, and we're gonna make the Sharpies look more professional. Sharpie came out and
So
said, "We've
I
never
gotta
had that
say this,
conversation."
and people in the comments or in the chat are gonna hopefully don't get upset with me. Remember when we were kids? We're on the bus, and there's that individual who sits at the front of the bus who's not all there for all those reasons why, be it genetic, be it brain trauma, be it developmental, be it whatever. That thing we used to call him
And we can't
constantly.
call anybody anymore.
We can't call people anymore. Tell me how the president is not the actual thing that we were talking about in those situations. I'm sorry. Just, oh.
His mother even said way back when that he should not get into politics. He has no business in politics.
Yeah, I'm sorry for going down that track. I'm trying to be a nicer guy, but
you're good.
Just like
well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank.
Watching myself on YouTube, I kid you not, there's like a minute of lag.
It's usually what it is. We just need the prescription to be written the wrong dosage. Depends on what prescription.
We need a secret service guy to, read up on Roman emperors and how to get rid of them. Just do one lesson.
Trip while traveling behind the official motorcade with your gun out.
Oh, you mean trip and not shoot yourself in the leg, but accidentally shoot somebody in front of you?
Have a magic bullet theory? Maybe we should do the next one. So you're coming back, by the way. We will have you on again because Kevin Latna wants to talk about your favorite
Amelia
topic.
Earhart. Yeah, I saw that.
So maybe we should do an episode on just conspiracy theories and how we debunk them.
We could do an episode entirely on Amelia Earhart.
I know. That's why I told him that's a separate topic. Especially
not just conspiracy theories, but like we could do a full breakdown topic on the life and disappearance of Amelia Earhart.
As soon as that video came out that I sent you, I went on to Google Earth and I cannot find that land feature that they showed on Nikomaru Island.
So I want people to go and try to identify all of the pieces of the 400-foot-long iron-hulled ship that's on the shore of Nikomaru Island.
I saw that.
And identify all the pieces accurately down to pieces that are like this big, like exhaust manifold parts, and identify them with such accuracy.
Well,
and
Kevin,
when they can
if
do that
with
something that's actively there, they can then talk about finding bits of an airplane.
Find the bits of the airplane. But Kevin, if you want to talk about Amelia Earhart, you gotta talk about the conspiracies that go along with her.
Well, we can touch on some of them, most certainly. But, I mean, there's a astounding amount of evidence as to what happened to Amelia Earhart. And almost to the point where I feel bad because there's no mystery left. And people keep trying to dress up mystery by saying, oh, well, we found parts of her airplane. I want that guy to spend however many thousands of dollars it's going to take him to get to Nikomaru Island. I want him to kick around in the salt water. And then I want him to get stung by a stonefish for his insolence. And then I want him to go, okay, well, I couldn't find it.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. The Electra was an aluminum aircraft.
Uh-huh.
Aluminum and salt water you know this because you got your pilot's license. Speaking of, I'm gonna try and get mine sometime. I don't know.
Good.
But I worked on them for 20 years, and
Yeah,
salt
aluminum
water
and salt water do
aluminum
not
do not mix.
do well. Also, you have a group of Gilbert Islander indigenous peoples living there for 30-something years who would use every single piece of whatever they found on the shore to make tools and boxes and cooking implements and fishing lures and all sorts of stuff. And the soft aluminum of an aircraft frame would be perfect building material for stuff.
So, sometimes we just have to laugh at Kirk. Every time I tell Teeny that Kirk has sent me a message, I don't even tell her who it's from. I just read the question, and she's like, "That's automatically a Kirk question."
Uh-oh.
Look
Well,
what
now
Kirk
you need
put
to
in the
get Kirk
chat.
a t-shirt. She get a bubble that says, "Behold, a Kirk question." Don't actually give the question. Just say, "Behold, the Kirk question." There you go.
But no, look at the chat. See what Kirk wrote.
He gave me a suggestion on my headphone issue. Told Teeny she's bad for miswriting prescriptions.
You don't have
Laughs.
the "She's Still Alive," gifted eternal life by her Aboriginal mystic shaman lover. It's the last thing.
I just want to do Amelia Earhart, not conspiracy theories.
Well, the next one that pops up for you is going to be "She's Still Alive," gifted eternal life by her Aboriginal mystic shaman lover. Chat is frozen for you?
Chat's frozen for me, too.
Oh, that stinks.
Oh, now Kirk come back. Chat's frozen, I guess. So the conspiracy of her being alive with whoever, that comment didn't come through.
The Aboriginal mystic shaman lover. It sounds like Alan Quartermain kind of thing. Anyway, I am getting hungry because I haven't eaten yet.
I've been eating Cheetos because that's all I have.
Well, I have robin eggs, but I don't think chocolate malted milk balls are going to be a good dinner.
Probably not. You should probably eat something with some sustenance.
I did make something that you could probably make.
Is it okay? What is it?
Do you like baklava?
Baklava?
Yes. Just do you like the phyllo dough?
Yes.
So I made.
You say baklava, and I'm like, because my brain is this. I'm like, baklava. Is that like the dessert baklava? Isn't that a coat? And is it that thing that I keep confusing with spanakopita?
No, it's the dessert stuff.
Okay, so it's the dessert stuff made out of the same stuff that you use in spanakopita that is unfortunately closely named to a coat. Gotcha.
Okay. That's news to me. But I made cheeseburger baklava. You put the phyllo dough on the bottom.
That sounds like really good.
It's fucking delicious. Phyllo dough. It's phyllo.
Phyllo dough.
Phyllo.
Philo, philosopher, philo.
Yes, but you don't put honey or nuts in cheeseburger baklava.
You could.
Well, then it's regular baklava, but you take out the cheesy meat portion. But I'm also making tomorrow. I was going to make it tonight, but I'm making crab rangoon baklava.
Ooh. So baklava is the dirt. Balaclava is the coat.
Balaclava is actually
served
not the
in
coat.
in the same cupboard at the Greek restaurant when I go.
A balaclava is actually like a face mask, not a coat.
Shut up. Shut up.
Anyway, you will be
The
back.
cheeseburgery thing actually sounds pretty good. I might
It
have to
is.
try making that at some point.
I will send it to you on the Instagram. Actually, you could just search it up the Instagram PHYLOO.
You send it to me on the Instagram because I will forget to search for it.
I will send it to you on the Instagram. And I will send you the crab rangoon on the Instagram.
Ooh, crab rangoon.
But when would you like to come back, sir? Would you like to do this a weekly thing, couple weeks thing?
Well, let me look at my schedule here because I really have no idea what's going on.
Hey, Kevin, did you know that if you put if you take two pizzas and stack them on top of each other, you have still two pizzas. But if you take two lasagnas and stack them on top of each other, now you just have one lasagna.
I saw that somewhere else. Did I send that to you?
Probably.
The two black dudes who go back and forth with their like philosophical fuck you questions.
Yep.
And that was one of them. He looks over his glasses, he's all serious and shit, and he says this, and the other guy is like, cannot compute, and then throws something. I love those guys. God damn it.
But here's the thing. If you turn one of the pizzas upside down, now you have a calzone.
See, that makes sense.
Oh, Tini says we both sent it to her.
Oh yeah. No. Like I send videos to the same, like a rotating group of the same 8 people. So if you haven't seen a video, Teeny has seen it and Dustin has seen it. And if Dustin hasn't seen it, you and Teeny have seen it. And if Tiny hasn't seen it, you and Dustin have seen it.
But if I've seen it and Teeny hasn't seen it from you, Teeny's seen it from me. Because I sent it to her.
Apparently. What was I looking at? I was gonna look up something on my phone. Looking at dates. Yes. So the week of the 6th, I will be pretty busy.
Okay.
But I might not be actually home until late in the evening on Friday. So yeah, we could do it next week. I'm pretty open.
Okay. So next week, everybody, you are hearing this right now, right here. Next week's episode will be Amelia Earhart.
It is Good Friday. In case anybody who is a celebratory of said Christian-y holiday, because despite the fact that I disagree with Christians, I still respect people for having their belief system to a degree.
Unless they're wearing a Trump 2028 shirt.
That's not a religion. If that's a religion, I fully expect people to commit ritual suicide when he dies. So it's a religion, please, God.
So you apparently didn't hear of the former 441 recognized religions by the United States military. Yeah. They're being dropped to 31.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Which is a violation of the First Amendment of the United States. So I very much hope that every single military individual who falls out of who does not quantify for the 31 that are being kept, I hope every single one of them goes AWOL.
Did you also hear? You probably also did, because Teeny probably sent it to you. Did you also see that the United States Army has increased the age of enlistment?
I didn't need to see that. She didn't need to send me that. I saw it somewhere else. No, I saw that, and I saw that they're lifting the if you have a marijuana possession,
a single marijuana
possession. I'm like, 2/3 of the people who vote for this guy have like 15 felonies. So, and then she asked me something about where does domestic violence and something else be on there? And I was like, that's a prerequisite for being ICE. Okay, so to the one
That's
individual
Kevin.
chat,
That's Kevin.
Kevin, is that a day that we should skip because it's a holiday? Just throwing that out there to be respectful.
Yeah, my chatters and followers, they kind of get mad sometimes when we skip a week.
Okay.
They
We
understand
won't skip
because
it.
I have things going on, like I was moving for 3 weeks. Yes, we
I
do
will.
the Friday show.
We'll do Friday show, and for that Friday show, I will drink some wine in honor of dead things.
Do you want to eat a cracker too?
No. A Jeez-It? No.
Wine and Cheez-Its.
But Good Friday is a Friday. That's why I'm asking. The wine and the Jeez-Its.
And that means that Wednesday's Ash Wednesday, right?
Oh, is that where you put ash on your face and you walk around like you suffered somehow?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which
cool.
means we're coming up on Fat Tuesday.
Fuck yeah. Fatty Tuesday. So there's this place here in town called the Dinosaur Cafe, and they're a little kitchen in the back of a bar called Charlie B's. And the guy makes the best po' boys ever. And I get that I have no idea what a good po' boy is because I live in Montana. But this guy either makes or he has them flown up here, deep frozen from a contact in Louisiana. Crawdad pie. Crawdad pot pie. Oh man. Decadent. My tattoo artist gets like 10 of them and keeps them frozen. Eats them through the year.
I think Teeny's schooling us.
She probably is. It's been known to happen. I don't know everything. Whew.
That's why this is an advice channel.
Start Lent. What am I giving up for Lent?
Oh no! She said this already passed.
It's already passed.
Yeah. So I got a joke.
Oh.
It came from my grandparents' book of jokes, and the title of this books were literally Jokes for the John. And it was a book
Nice.
that was the size of the back of the porcelain toilet thingy.
Nice.
So this husband and wife get married, right?
Sure.
Blonde wife, big old hooters. And the book actually says this, right?
Sure.
Book has pictures and everything, right?
Sure.
And so they get married, and the first night of their honeymoon, the guy starts getting his bedroom stuff and taking his pillows and his blankets out to the couch. Wife comes over to him and says, "Aren't you gonna? It's our honeymoon. Aren't you gonna come make love to me?" He's like, "Babe, I can't. It's Lent." And she's like, "Okay, to who and for how long?"
Fair. History of crucifixion in the Roman Empire. Yeah, I could do that.
Teeny liked the joke.
It's a joke. I find it hilarious that were you following me when I read that article, Crucifixion in the Fens? Do you remember that?
So I've only been following you since like December of 22.
That actually might coincide. So for everybody who knows this, when did Mom Millennial say the Roman Empire wasn't real? Was that
November
22?
21? Is that when I started following him? That sounds better.
Mom Millennial made the claim that the Roman Empire wasn't real. Everybody rolled their eyes, and we spent a lot of time kind of shutting down her bullshit. But I said something well aware that she was like vindictive and going after people and going after their livelihoods for not believing in her and calling everybody anti-Semitic because people didn't believe her. And it's like, that's not anti-Semitic when we're calling you out on the truth stuff, but cool. And I remember that she sent to me an article that was like that she said was proof of something. And I was like, that is amazing that you sent this article to me because it absolutely proves that the Romans were a real thing in Britain. And it was called Crucifixion in the Fens. And it was about the only burial that has ever been discovered showing actual evidence of a crucifixion. Like the guy has a giant nail through one of his ankle bones. So I read the article. I printed it out. I had the big thing. It was one of my very first like big lives that I advertised and stuff. Lots of people watched it. And yeah, I read this out loud to all the people. I wrote that big laws document. Okay, cool. 21. Awesome. Oh, yes. Yes, somebody did deny so what was it? The Roman Empire was not a real thing, and it was a hoax written by the Spanish Inquisition or some bullshit like that. And people have been begging, and I have read out loud, but I do need to read out some other stuff. That is
well, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
That's very true. Sneaking around, doing naughty shit.
Speaking of the Spanish Inquisition, John Cleese is on TikTok now or Instagram, or his daughter's helping him. And he said, send me questions that you would like answers to, so long as those questions are not, what is the airspeed velocity of a coconut-laden swallow? Because that's a stupid question.
And how many questions did he get?
I don't know.
About the swallow. Just because. Yeah. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
African European.
I don't know that.
What is your favorite color?
What's your favorite color? Blue. Go on,
green.
What is the capital of Assyria? I believe it's Damascus. But...
Assyria or just Syria?
Assyria. He distinctly says Assyria, which it would have been more considered Assyria back when Monty Python is supposed to have taken place, I believe. So, yeah.
I think Assyria was up there near Babylon, and then Syria was close to Damascus. Well, Syria was Damascus. Syria's in the south. I don't know. I could be wrong. Could be.
I think. Well, Babylon was part of the Assyrian Empire at some point.
Yeah, it was all part of the Akkadian Empire at one point too, with Uruk and Uri and
yep,
and King Nebuchadnezzar II, the first archaeologist.
Nabonidus.
Nabonidus?
Not Nebuchadnezzar. King Nabonidus. Yes, King Nabonidus is considered the first archaeologist, and his son is Belshazzar.
I could have swore it was Nebuchadnezzar.
They sound the same. Nabonidus and Nebuchadnezzar are the same. Nebuchadnezzar's in the Bible, right?
Somewhere.
Yeah, Nabonidus was a weirdo who was like, he fucked off to some oasis and didn't shake the hands of Marduk and believed in his own little god, and everybody was upset in Babylon, which is why the takeover of Babylon was so bloodless by Cyrus and the Medes and the Persians, because nobody liked Balthazar. And Balthazar was not necessarily the king, but being like a vassal or a regent for his dad, who was fucking off and at this oasis doing other things.
Interesting. See, I learned something too.
Yes. And the Elamites are the first in recorded history to like have museums of collections, because there was a stele, the stele of Hammurabi, which had on it who wrote it and the maker of the device of the thing, and then below it said it literally was like taken as loot by the Elamites and hauled back to
that's funny.
Where was it found? Not Nicaea.
That's funny you mentioned the stele of Hammurabi, because last week Kirk asked about the first taxes, and the Code of Hammurabi came up.
Yeah.
And I look at it,
the
and
stele of Hammurabi? Yeah, I think it is the stele of Hammurabi. Yeah.
Well, the Code of Hammurabi was the tax laws that they did. Could have been on a stele, but
I gotta look it up.
But no, I was saying I can't pronounce Hammurabi. I'm gonna say it's the Code of Harambe.
Yes. So it's the stele of Naram Sin that I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. The victory stele of Naram Sin.
Of Naram Sin.
Yep. Commemorates the Akkadian king Naram Sin's triumph over the Lullaby, a mountain tribe from the Zagros region. It's currently at the Louvre in Paris. It was found in 1898. In the excavation of the city of Susa by French archaeologist Jacques de Morgan. It was originally erected in Sippar, which is modern day Iraq, during the Akkadian Empire, but 1,000 years later, in the 12th century BCE, the Elamite king Shurtuk, I can't pronounce his last name, seized the stele during a raid on Babylon and brought it to Susa, which is modern day Iran, as a trophy. So it is the stele of Naram Sin that I was talking about, not the stele of Hammurabi. I apologize. Not King Sargon or King Sargon II? He just probably conquered everybody around him, either via actual warfare or via, politics and money and buying loyalties and stuff. And emperors, emperor, I use emperor and king and czar all kind of interchangeably, because they all kind of fill the same niche.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if he took the steps forward, I think at some point after sedentary humans become a thing, or semi-sedentary humans become a thing, at some point there is always somebody trying to gather more people and be in charge of more things. Always. So at some point it reaches a point where You could say this individual is a king over someone who's a chieftain, but it really depends.
All depends on land size.
Yep.
That's how we get all on the Pacific coast little tribes of chiefdoms.
The victory stele of Narumsin.
But did larger nations come from fighting for water rights, or no?
I think larger regions come together, larger nation states come together because it's mutually beneficial. Or it's beneficial to, there's a benefit somewhere. The more people you have, the bigger the landmass you have, the more you have to expel to defend it and care for it and maintain it. So there better be something there. Remember, though, even though the Middle East is really harsh and awful and deserty today, back then the environment was a little bit different. You didn't have the weather being changed by pollution and CO2 and stuff in the atmosphere. You had a lot of water systems that haven't been diverted or changed over to industrialized agriculture. So you would... the landscape would be markedly different. Remember, the whole reason why Baghdad is a desert, has no water in it, is because of the Mongols. There was a massive irrigation system that dates back to the time period of like Naram-Sin and Babylon and stuff there, and it was the it was the Mongols under the beginning Genghis Khan, but then Kublai, I believe, who rocked in and did the Mongol thing and destroyed pretty much everything in order to cut off the city. So they destroyed all of the canals and all of the waterworks systems. And the irony of all of that destruction is it takes, 1,000 and change years until the U.S. military spends millions and millions of dollars on all of their heavy equipment and infrastructure to actually assist in restoring that water system.
But we can't restore the water system if we blow it up.
Wow. That's true. But we're not bombing Iraq right now. We're bombing Iran.
No, but we did bomb Iraq.
We did bomb Iraq. But if you notice, we bombed Iraq. But all the work happened after we were done bombing Iraq. We didn't do it the first time we bombed Iraq because Saddam Hussein was still technically alive and still being in charge of things. So we didn't go in and fix all the stuff we broke. After we got rid of him, we went in and fixed a bunch of stuff we broke and then fixed a bunch of stuff that needed to be fixed.
And then ISIS came in and broke everything we fixed.
I think when it comes down to canals and stuff, they held what was going on. But I don't know. I don't pay attention that much. Trade, mutual defense, stuff like that does result in groups of people coming together. The bigger the group, the more people you have to defend. The outskirts of the stuff.
But
at some point, there's prestige involved. At some point, there's religiosity gets involved. And then there's the more people you have, the more stuff you need. The more stuff you need means you need more people to get it. The more people you need to get it results in more need, more stuff. It's this catch-22. Just keeps going and going.
More resources are needed to feed to more people. And there's only a finite amount of resources.
Yep. Because then humans have ego. And for some reason, nobody can be all the same. People seem to think they need more, or they want more, or they have to if they have more, they can do other things. And then you get the rich and the poor, and the haves and the have-nots, and then it becomes a real issue.
And then you get people like us.
I agree 100%. We should not be the world police. We never should have been the world police. It was, the fear of the Russians. Which, ironically enough, if the Russians had gone about shifting of power in the way that Lenin thought it was going to go, It would never would have happened because Stalin was never supposed to get the job. But yeah, wild stuff.
If everybody just followed Karl Marx, we'd all be in a different situation. People really need to read.
People do, and people need to read Karl Marx, and then they need to read a bunch of other stuff that goes with it. Because I guarantee you, there's people out there who have read Karl Marx, and then they do get to the point somewhere in their justifications where they think their thoughts about how bad communism and stuff are valid, except for the fact that they're not considering any of the other animalistic talking points or anything that result in communism not working. It's
That's the key.
They need to understand what they're reading. They do.
And they don't need to be sheeple. They don't need to be told. They need to educate themselves. Which is what this channel does. This channel helps to educate you guys in the chat because you guys ask very legitimate questions.
Mm-hmm.
Put a little flavorful spin on them, Kirk, but legitimate questions nonetheless. So you have something to do tomorrow that is not building a fence to keep the doggos in.
That's right.
Did you get the coyote rollers?
No, I did not. I did not get the coyote rollers or anything like that because my paycheck didn't come in until 4:05 in the afternoon.
Ouch.
Yes, because that's how my paycheck works. I don't know. Did you get paid today? Are you not getting paid?
Oh, I'm getting paid.
So did you get paid today, or is it?
Let's see.
Do they have all of the federal agencies on various paydays? Because that would just be kind of dumb. But
they have all the agencies on various paydays.
Yeah.
So yes, it looks like I got paid today.
Okay, so I got paid today too. So our pay periods are the same. Cool.
Yeah, I get paid. What is today? The 27th?
Friday, 27th.
Yeah. I get paid today, and I'll get paid again next Tuesday.
Why?
Because of my VA disability.
Ah, right.
And then I'll get paid again on the 10th. See,
Yep.
With me being on deployed to disaster, I also get a travel voucher every 14 days. Right?
Nice.
Yeah. So I have that travel voucher set up so that my 14 days is off pay week. So I get paid, travel voucher, paid, travel voucher.
I found my ID.
See, that says FEMA contractor.
Yep. Because I was working for a company.
That one just says FEMA on it.
There you go. Yeah,
You need to come back.
Well, I'm comfortable where I'm at present. I don't know. I'm yeah.
It'll get you out of Montana for 360 plus days a year.
Well, I don't want to leave Montana. I like Montana. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah, but you could go to places like Hawaii or Alaska.
I could go to those places and still still live in Montana. I don't need to leave it. I was born in Alaska.
Born in Alaska.
I'd just be going home. Yeah.
So that
my dad was a pipeliner.
So that means you're not a wolf. You're a polar bear.
No. There's wolves in Alaska. Yeah.
USPS 2, I think. What?
Postal Service.
No, I know, but I'm trying to figure out what she's talking about.
Payday.
Oh.
Payment cycles.
What I saw growing up in the Cold War is the difference between communism and capitalism is that communism falls into corruption faster.
That is because of ego and id.
Yeah, yes, but both fall into corruption just as well.
That is very true. You don't see you capital or communism is polarized. How about that? There seems to be a polarization of stuff, and in capitalism there isn't such an outright polarization until now, where you see the blatant bullshit happening, which I really can't see the difference between the bullshit that's happening now and the corruption and the shit that's happening now. I can't see really any difference between how they get rid of somebody who's actually useful and put somebody who's absolutely pointless in place, like they did in Russia, especially during the war.
I can't understand why these two old guys are still alive.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm wishing upon a star. Kirk questions.
Kirkstians, Kirk questions.
Kirkisms.
Kirkisms. I like it.
There you go.
They're all having fun in the chat.
Kirk will bless us with a Kirkism.
Well,
and then we have to read it a certain way. Lo, and there was thine Kirkism, which the Kirk has asked. And then you read the question.
So, here was the Kirk question from last week. Something playing a starring role in some of today's woes is insurance. Largely insurance for oil tankers wanting to travel through a certain war zone.
Yes.
What is the first record of the concept of insurance? Was it to stop grog from making fire too close to cave?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And that's where we got the code of Harambe.
Mm-hmm.
Hammurabi.
Code of Hammurabi, yeah. Yeah, the idea of maintaining the protection of something because if you don't, then everybody's in trouble when it gets ruined or stole or whatever. It's interesting.
Here's a question for you. Since we're going long, it's fine. Have you ever been part of an effort to recreate past ancient achievements? I'm thinking of things like the people using ropes to move Easter Island statues, or to lift Stonehenge like stones, or build a pyramid. Those are big things, but could be smaller. Like how to forge a knife from ore, or build a kiln for glazing pottery from raw materials.
Well, I guess I have shaped logs for the restoration of historic structures. With a broad axe, and use log tongs to move them, and I have driven horses on an Arastra to power a horse-driven sawmill. But I wouldn't call that large scale, like building a pyramid or building a castle in France in accordance to all of the traditional ways, or walking a statue like a moai.
So don't shoot me. But you've never been part of building an ancient Egyptian pyramid in the Grand Canyon.
No, nothing there.
Kurt wants to know what an
Arastra, Arasta. So an Arastra is a bit of old school technology that uses some sort of power to either run a grinder or turn a drive shaft. So if you've seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan the Barbarian, where he's walking and he's pushing that wheel, that is an Arastra that grinds grain. So essentially it's a pillar with spokes off it, and you have slaves, or in some cases livestock. They walk in a circle, and then in the middle there are weights hanging, usually made out of rock, that are crushing up either ore or grain or something like that. They used to use horses for this. So you'd have like a track that goes in a circle. Pirates of the Caribbean, in the blacksmith shop, the donkey walking in a circle, that is an Arastra, where the donkey is walking. It's on the end of this yard arm, and as it's walking, it's making the machinery work through a series of drive shafts and universal joints. It's essentially a motor.
So a windmill, like a Dutch style windmill, is an Arastra.
Kind of. Yeah, it's an evolution of the technology. Yes. Instead of using livestock, you're using the wind. But yeah, the early Arastras, and they go back to Assyria. They go back to the early days of the Middle East, are usually either 2 or more spokes attached to a center post. They have weights hanging down, and they're dragging over something and grinding it up. And it's a very commonly used thing in gold mining, because you'd bring the ore down in big chunks, you'd put it in the Arastra, and you'd drag other rocks over it and crush them into smaller chunks. A lot. You could move a lot of ore this way, and then those smaller chunks can then be crushed down into finer stuff and processed for gold easier. Size really, and yeah, different parts. But yeah, a millstone would be the same thing, but if it's running on water, it would be water powered, or if it's running on you might have an animal that's walking on a treadmill that's turning a millstone. Millstones are usually are shaped in a way, if I'm thinking correctly here, millstones are shaped in a way because they're milling something like grain or flour. So you don't want something that's really rough or out of shape. You want something that creates a really fine, tight fit with everything else, so it's crushing those small seeds. Early Arastras are using rocks that are this big to crush similar sized rocks into rocks that are this big, so it's not the most finessed work, but a millstone is, because it's being used to crush up flour or something like that. Old tech. Still works great. But yeah, all the stuff I've done has been historic and like at most 200 years old. Nothing like walking moai. Very crude. Very, very crude. And it just, you make a thing and you learn what works, and then you improve on it. So by the end, they made Arastras that they didn't call them Arastras anymore, but they were essentially a horse-driven cast iron gear system and transmission system that would move ore carts. Made in New York in the or Pennsylvania in the foundries of Philly. It's just an improvement of the technology. Hey, this works. Hey, this doesn't. Let's stop doing what doesn't and focus on what does. There's an Arastra at Garnett that's been remade because they had one in that location where the Arastra is currently in the 1860s and 70s when it was just starting out as a gold town. So maybe I'll go up there one of these days and walk people through it. Hell, there might not be any snow on it right now.
Speaking of walking people through it, have you gone see Tenacious P yet?
No. Keep meaning to, and then something keeps coming up because life. I do need to go see Tenacious P and let everyone know that Tenacious P is still alive.
For those of you who don't know in the chat, Tenacious P is, what is it, a longleaf pine, shortleaf pine?
Ponderosa.
Ponderosa? It's a Ponderosa pine, but it's sitting at like a 45-degree angle on a riverbank.
Yep, because the bank is washed out from underneath it. And now the way it's sitting, the roots, I'm pretty sure, have been eating into the bank, so it's actually like holding on to the bank at this 45-degree angle.
Which is why we call it Tenacious P.
Tenacious P, yeah.
Because it just will not die.
That's very true.
All I'm doing right now is putting the polls up in the Discord for next week's Deadly Dungeon. So you feel free to talk about whatever you want. Grab that book behind you. Grab that book behind you and talk about Santa Claus.
Book?
Yeah.
What book?
The book with all the little stories or anecdotes or conspiracy stuff.
You gotta be more specific.
Oh, what
None
is
of
it?
that books is on the shelf here.
Teeny knows what book I'm talking about. Teeny, what book?
That book's in the house.
It's the book you were reading from on your lives where we had people.
That book's in the house.
Oh, that book's in the house.
Right. No, that book is in the house.
Well, that stinks. I don't have that book.
Yeah, all of my suspicion books and stuff are not on the shelf currently. These are all history. There's a book of poetry. Amelia Earhart's Shoes. Updated edition. Tom King, yep. I mean, there's a whole book talking about Amelia Earhart's shoes.
Do we really want to know that she wore a size 5.5 shoe?
If it confirms that that's where she died on the island, yes, we absolutely do.
Well, we know she died on the island.
Yeah. Yeah, this book is 100 or 395 pages long. $399. Take that back before we get into the superfluous bibliography. Talking about evidence found on the island.
I know she died on the island when they found her makeup compact on the island.
Well, that's certainly one of those bits of evidence that seems like a smoking gun.
That and her specific suntan cream because she was redheaded and freckles.
Yeah. Hey, there's World War Z.
Oh, let's see what I got.
I love how my bookcase has stuff like Flying Fortress, World War Z, Hunting Warbirds, and Blood-Sucking Witchcraft.
Mine has Introduction to Forensic Archaeology, Cultural Anthro, Lemaire's Social Theory. And then I've got a book on Edmund Fitz.
Blood-Sucking Witchcraft. An epistemological study of anthropomorphic supernaturalism in rural Texas. Taxilacala. I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. By Hugh Gundatini and John M. Roberts. One of those books that I ordered and then never read. Because it's stout. The most comprehensive statement on this centrally important ethnographic phenomenon in the last 40 years. It bears ready comparison to the two great classics, Evan Pritchard's Witchcraft among the Azan and Clyde Cohn's Navajo Witchcraft. When did this come out? Because that's one of those things. You gotta be considerate of how long ago something came out. Witchcraft. 1993. Okay.
Wait a minute. I have a witchcraft book.
Hidden Ireland. That's a good book. Geographic Information Systems, GIS. Jutland, 1916. Lost Ships of Guadalcanal. Aircraft wrecks of the Pacific Northwest.
What was that Geographic Information Systems book?
Yeah. GIS, Geographic Information Systems for the Social Sciences, investigating space and place.
Oh, the only GIS stuff that I have is my remote sensing stuff.
Myths of Ancient Mexico, The Last Best Place, The Oxford Illustrated History of Ireland, Perilous Passage, Europe Overland, Amelia Earhart, Vixen 03, The Ragged Warriors by Martin Caden, which is a book that is like really interesting until you realize that the guy was like, in his later years, claimed he was a psychic. Yeah.
Is that like Prince Mongo?
Kind of. Scottish clans and tartans, the archaeology of American labor and working class life. Rune lore. Rivers of Empire, archaeological theory, historic aircraft wrecks of San Bernardino County. In Small Things Forgotten. Yeah, stuff.
You got that book?
In Small Things Forgotten?
No, this book.
What book? I should probably look at this the other window now because I'm pretty sure there is a 5-minute lag. Man, you're still frozen on Streamlabs since the very beginning.
I'm still frozen?
On Streamlabs, you've been frozen since you hit play.
Well, I was showing you 9th edition Magic, Witchcraft, and Religion, a reader in Anthropology of Religion by Pamela Morrow.
Yeah? Where's my version of that?
That's how new to anthropology I am. I got the 9th edition.
I'm serious because I have that. Tri-motor and trail, the end is always near. The 2 Lives of Charlemagne. What is it? How the Irish saved civilization. Puritan conquistadors. Indian running, land of the Yankee Fork. Line in the sand, blood and thunder. Ship of ghosts, beneath haunted waters. What's that textbook? Assassinating Shakespeare. I don't know. It's somewhere.
Well, we'll find it later. It was just unimportant.
Flight of Gold. Hanging around the big. There it is. Magic, Witchcraft, and Religion. 5th edition.
Wow. I am 4 editions behind you.
Cheese and Culture. Boomtown Saloons. East Wind Rain. Catch-22. Jaws.
Welcome to my series, Can You Feel It? Where I stuff your favorite dishes in phyllo. And for episode 2, we're making cheeseburger baklava. Crunchy burger.
So, alrighty. Well, it is 10:15.
It is. It's 11:15 here.
Yeah.
So with that, we will see you
So we're
next
gonna call
week,
it.
sir. What's
You have
that?
a monsters. You have a monster as one of your mods.
Yeah. Teeny's been a mod since day one. I need to have more mods because the rest of my mods have left. Well, Puffy Cheeto is still a mod, but with that, sir, we will see you next week.
Alrighty.
Not unless you want to start it at 7.
No, we can start it at 7. That's fine.
Okay. So next week we will have another long episode.
Sounds
Starting
good.
at 8 my time, 7 Wolf's time, 9 Eastern. And with that, I want to thank you for coming on and discussing the topics that we discussed. Gobekli Tepe, pirates, Bermuda Triangle, and Clovis.
Yeah. It was a pleasure.
So with that being said, we're going to go here. And I want to thank everybody. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that thing. Hit that notification button. That way you know when we go live. We will be back next week with an episode dedicated to Amelia Earhart. I want to thank my guest, Archeo Wolf, Interstellar Battle Cruiser Captain, famed archaeologist and pseudoscience debunker. And with that, I am your host, Captain Bartholomew Bones McCoy, Chris, the Pirate Archaeologist, the Rogue Pirate Archaeologist, whatever you want to call me. I will see you guys next week. Please send in your questions for either myself or for Archeo Wolf at roguebardadvice@gmail.com. If it's for Archeo Wolf, I will make sure he gets it. That way he can answer some of your guys' questions that I cannot. With that being said, see y'all next week. Have a great weekend. And do something fun.